Hello and welcome. We should be live. All right. If you tuned in last time, you'll notice that there's been a bit of an upgrade. There's now little fancy frames and flame effects and whatnot. Oh, look, my dog came back in. Hello. This one door doesn't latch, and he knows it, so he just kind of pushes it in, lets himself in whenever he needs. This is where his toy bucket is. All right. So today I'm going to be sculpting a magical pangolin. It's between that or Horus from Egyptian mythology. I'm going to end up doing both, but the pangolin is what won the vote. So if you want to vote on future YouTube polls, subscribe, and then you'll get notified on those little polls and stuff. All right. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import a pangolin that I've already made, but it's not small and cute. It's actually like a spooky, dire pangolin. So let's get that in here. All right, I'm also going to briefly banish my adorable dog because he's chewing on his bone and it's gonna pick up on the mic. I know, I'm sorry, honey. Come on, let's go. All right, dog has been deposited back with the husband, with his bone. All right, let's get rolling. So yeah, I actually made this pangolin a few years ago. It's been a hot minute. They're such funny looking cool creatures, but I didn't realize how stinking cute the little guys are. I have quite a few references pulled up. I'm actually gonna share those right now on screen. All right, so this is what my prompt is here. This is a request from Jason Engel. He's a Patreon supporter, and that's why I'm doing this request. Anyone legendary tier makes requests, and then that's what I do. That's my job. So he said, my D&D campaign has a group of magical girls, so very Sailor Moon-esque. I'd like a creature that gave them their powers. A cute pangolin that is floating with wings. They don't have to be functional looking wings, it floats with magic. Maybe some accessories to make them look fantasy, magical, otherworldly. The link has some examples from various anime. This is the link collage he provided, and then these are the two references that I found. I had no idea they were just this stinking cute, goodness. So obviously this dire pangolin I have is not the vibe. And when I made this one model a long time ago, about 2 years, I had no idea what nanomesh was. So I manually placed all of these large broken-esque scales. So what I'm gonna try to do is use array mesh to get a smoother look on the whole thing. So that's what we're doing today. I'm just gonna get right to it. I'm gonna put my references back on this other side. Very nice. And let's get rolling. So usually I start with a base mesh of some sort, but in this case, it's such a unique critter that I'm actually gonna sculpt this one completely from scratch. I have kind of a reference here. Not only have I sculpted something like this before, but I'll just kind of put him up here as a little reference for me to remind myself that I do know how to do this. Because this is kind of a tricky one. So the first thing I'll do is I'll start off with a sphere. I do a really low Dynamesh. And then I go in with the move brush. The first thing I'm gonna do is the head. So their heads have this really odd pointy snoot. I'm gonna increase the resolution a little bit. And this I'm looking really carefully at that reference I have pulled up. I'm gonna make this one a little bit more baby. All right, that's looking decent enough for the head. We're gonna have two big eyes right here, so I'll just push those in for right now. And then as far as their jaw goes, it's actually completely flat on the bottom. Usually I find like bony landmarks to kind of bring out to reference as I go. But these guys are really funny. And other than the scales that cover their whole body, they don't have these landmarks that I'm used to looking for. So this actually will be really good practice for me too. All right, we kind of got a little bit of this sloped face. Obviously the front needs some help. I don't think that their eyes are very front facing. No, they're not. That's one of the fun parts about 3D. I know that can be kind of intimidating, is that you have to make it look good from all angles. That's actually one of the big reasons why it came to me more naturally. Longtime viewers will know this, but I spent a lot more time trying to figure out how to be a 2D artist than a 3D artist, as far as like the effort versus, I guess, skill ratio. And obviously now I'm much better at 3D than 2D, but for the amount of time that I put into 3D art, or not 3D, 2D art, and by that I just mean like a pen and paper, it just didn't come to me very naturally. Also, in my defense though, I was a kid, so maybe having the work ethic of like an adult was a big part of what made this possible. I guess we'll never know. So as you can tell right now, I'm kind of just putting in a new subtool every time I want a new piece to work with here. For the pose, I plan to have the tail kind of wrapping underneath and kind of like a floating cute look to it. Oh, hey, Taylor's back. Welcome back. It's actually why I prefer it over 2D, because once you have it at all angles, you don't have to redraw it at every angle. Yeah, it's very true. I didn't think about that. I read a ridiculous amount of webtoons, which is like, if you read like comic books or manga, it's very similar, because I also read manga. But it's just like fully colored panels, and they're usually on your phone, and you scroll as opposed to like flipping pages. Anyway, I read them on the Webtoon app, and I know a lot of artists on there that have been doing it for a long time actually do use 3D assets for that exact reason. They're not 3D modelers by any means, but they use 3D assets to make a lot of larger scenes easier for them. I think some of them use the same like castle generator or something. I'm pretty sure, because I read a lot of fantasy webtoons, and I'm like, I feel like I've seen this castle before. All right. So I actually don't have any references up of their little feet. I'm gonna need to do that. They're like, they're in the pictures, but they're so covered in those scales, it's really hard to even tell what they are. I'm kind of going for a more simplified look, so maybe I won't even worry about that too much. I'll just make sure that they just kind of round. Because they have like these little, like, nub on them almost. So my students do really well with their assignments up until the point where they get to like what I'm doing now, which is pretty much just like this free form. You're gonna do the real big kid sculpting where you don't have a base mesh and you don't have anything to reference from. It's just you making all the decisions. And a lot of people get locked up because as you work, you obviously want to like, okay, do I like the shapes that are happening or not? Do I like the direction of this? But what ends up happening is people look at it and they start judging what they have so far as if it's the final piece, which is obviously very discouraging. And you can't do that because it's not done. So it's gonna look silly. So let it look silly. Just think, am I making any progress? If the answer is yes, fantastic, keep going. All right, so for these back legs, I'm actually gonna make them in two pieces. I'm gonna have this one, and then they have like these little, they almost remind me of little elephant feet. I wonder if they squish like elephant and rhino feet when they walk. Maybe when I have a stream break, I will look that up. I'm gonna do a little taper on this. Flip from the bottom, give it that real nice round shape I was talking about, like that elephant-like foot. This is looking really funny, but even I can already see it coming together. All right. We got most of the pieces that we need here. Obviously, it's finished. So from here, usually with a model like this, I'm actually going to transpose master and adjust all of the proportions together. And then Taylor says, They judge their base mesh as if it's the final. Yep. And if you judge your artwork so early like that, like, you gotta be nicer to yourself than that. You're not gonna get anywhere otherwise. And I don't even mean get anywhere as like a professional. I mean like within the piece, like finishing the piece. There's plenty of professional artists out there that are hypercritical of their own work. Okay, do they have a long neck or do they not have a long neck? I'm looking at this photo and it's, God, these are such weird little dudes, guys. All right. So from this stage, what I'm gonna do, actually, I can't decide if I'm gonna do proportions first or some landmarks. As I mentioned earlier, they don't really have very clear landmarks, but there will be some. Like, they're gonna have a spinal ridge that's higher than the rest of it. There is gonna be a clear neck. So let's go ahead and make that connection a little more tapered. That'll just make it easier for me to blend the two later. And right now I'm looking for silhouette lines that make it look recognizable. So right now I kind of have this dip from that head to the back, but any of the references I see, it's perfectly smooth. It's like this one, like I have me sitting up and it's like a big C shape. On the other one, it's also like this big, really like relaxed C shape. So I know I'm gonna want this to blend pretty much all the way up, even though my brain tells me that's not what they look like. A lot of creating art is arguing with your brain on what something looks like. And even though I know I don't know what this looks like, that's why I have references. But there is like an intuitiveness that your brain will usually want to fill in. And sometimes you can trust that and it works really well. But unless you have sculpted the same thing many, many, many times, there's usually a lot to learn still. All right, that's looking a little bit better. Gosh, they have the cutest little nose, guys. All right. Something I'm going to do here to kind of smooth out the lumpiness is I'm actually going to use ZBrush. There we go. I'll do that. I even like using polish by features sometimes, and that just kind of smooths it out. I like the lumpiness when I'm just pulling the mesh around with Dynamesh, but once I get to a shape that I think is like kind of correct, then I'll just start ZBrushing. And like always, if you have more questions about what I mean by that, or even what ZBrush is, just let me know. All right. You'll also notice that I'm working very low poly. That's something that drives my students crazy. It's like they'll show me their base mesh and I'm like, lower poly. They're like, I have 2 points. I'm like, 1. Like, obviously I'm exaggerating, but it's so important to work low poly. And it stops you from getting too far into the details. Because if you do that, you really end up with this immensely lumpy mesh. Oh my goodness, you look so scary. Just giving it some time. So I know I want to look cuter, right? It's going to be more of a baby look than, I already have this scary looking one, so. There's a couple like golden rules of what makes something look baby, and one of them is the nose to like eye ratio. So if I draw like a triangle, like my eyebrows to my nose, that triangle, having that long side here shorter will make it look more baby. Everyone always just thinks big eyes, and like that's true, but sometimes if you just make the eyes big, it makes them look really monstrous and kind of scary looking. All right, got something going on here. I like it. I'm gonna leave the head alone for a little bit and then move on to something else. So these arms are located very low to the ground actually, and they kind of walk on them, it looks like. Nope, no they don't. They just hover their little arms slightly above the ground. Wow, are these real? Okay. Google says they're real. I've never seen one. I'm suspicious. All right. That's something. And then I'm really gonna have a good time when I try to bring like array mesh into this and put scales all over it. But we don't have to worry about that right now, so we're not gonna worry about it. All right, I'm going to work on these back legs a tiny bit, and then I'm gonna focus more on the actual roundness of the body. Look how far apart I have the legs right now. Nope. Let's scoot that in. There we go. Much nicer. And then I oversimplified this a bit, so it's not just like this triangle shape that points straight down. I still need to actually construct all the shapes. So we have this top part of like the hind quarter, and then there's another bone. I have no idea what it's called, but I know it's there. That's here. There we go. Look how much better that looks. I knew I was forgetting some crucial part of the leg. I'm like, this looks goofy in a very wrong way. Now it looks less goofy in a more right way. Gosh, I see why I missed it though, because the connection to that back leg is really odd. All right, so to add thickness to a piece like this, I like to just grab back face mask, and the move brush and click and drag. I use a custom UI, so if you're actually like a ZBrusher and you're trying to learn where these buttons are and stuff, feel free to ask me in the comments and I can show you where it is in the menus. Because obviously your UI will not look anything like this. It'll either be your own custom UI or the ever loved and revered default ZBrush UI. And yeah, I'm being super facetious. People hate it. It's actually one of the big main complaints about ZBrush is the default UI. But as someone that's been using software for years, I find it weird when people complain about it because I'm like, it's so obviously not meant to be used long term. Like, you're supposed to customize the UI to whatever you need, which I know is like a little bit of a cop out, but just because people use ZBrush in so many different ways. All right, so their neck is actually really thin too. So that's why this head's looking so wrong. There we go. See, it's funny, if you check your landmarks against them constantly, you don't have to worry about getting like the head perfect. See, I wasn't able to realize how tall the head was until I realized that the way that the body and the neck tapered in was too thick. That's why I don't obsess on any one piece for too long, because I know as I kind of move around the model and they all talk to each other, I'll be able to figure it out. I'm really not referencing my own model enough. I would have figured out that leg structure just now if I was. It's good practice to remember and relearn these things. All right, they really have quite the slope up, and then it tapers down to this big flat tail. The tail's actually looking pretty good just as is. I might want to reverse this curve to be the other way though, because I think I want the pose to be a lot different than how I'm structuring it right now. All right, and then how is this belly working out? That's decent. Yeah, the arms are even more far forward. Okay. That's the rough block out here. Move those feeties forward a little bit. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pull up one of the pieces from my asset library. These are just models that I've made in the past and then I assembled them together. So right here, you can see these are all the wings that I've made. I'd like to say over the years, but I honestly didn't start making the asset library until somewhat recently. And I think these little fluffy wings are gonna be perfect for this model. Because as you mentioned, they're not even functional. They're just like cute baby looking wings. Oops, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to this tool I loaded in and delete all. That just clears the whole tool. All right. Another cool trick is if you bring up the 3D gizmo with W and then hold down Command or Control on your keyboard and then grab this little square, it will inflate the mesh. It'll inflate the mesh based on where you're located, I think, but I always just click this little like locator icon to make sure it's dead center. All right, and I like the idea of this being kind of like a Hollyphant-esque. If you're not familiar, Hollyphants are really cute, like celestial elephants. And I guess they're not really cute. If you played Baldur's Gate 3, like they're fine. The holly plant that I sculpted, I made like super baby and almost Disney looking, so that one's looking especially cute. And I think I'm gonna have these wings kind of sit where I think the shoulder blade would be. Here we go. This is so silly. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take a tiny little break, drink some coffee. But yeah, I hope you guys have been doing good. I had a pretty good morning. It was quiet, went out, did my chores, took a shower, made breakfast. That's why I have my hair in these tubes. For the longest time, figuring out like a hair routine that worked was difficult. It looks like very Hermione-esque, like from Harry Potter. Not Hermione in the movies, but like Hermione in the books. Like it's got volume, but not a whole lot of anything else. If I put it in these little tubes and put a ton of conditioner on it, it calms them. Oh, love me some coffee. I've always wanted to be more of a tea drinker, but I just don't like tea very much. But I like the aesthetic better, and supposedly it's better for your teeth. I think this is coming out pretty good. I'm gonna throw these references back on the screen just so you guys kind of know what the direction here. Oh, here's Horus. I'm gonna work on that one probably tomorrow. But yeah, this is the vibe we're going for. I wonder if it's helpful for you guys to have those references on screen so you have a little more of direction of what I'm doing. It wouldn't be that hard for me to keep them on screen. So if you guys have a preference, just let me know. Taylor mentioned you just have to experiment with the teas. I do. I recently was really, really ill. Not like hospital ill, but just like really bad food poisoning that I'm pretty sure was like more like salt poisoning. Anyway, 3 days later, after just like nonstop illness and puking, my friend from Seattle was really sweet, and she sent me like this super fancy like peppermint tea. And I'm ashamed to admit this, but I don't know, I haven't tried it. I need to try it still, but it smells just incredible. So I think I would like that. I've liked some chai teas before, but I put so much milk and sugar and honey in it that at that point I think I'm just pretending it's coffee again. So it is what it is. I'm really, really happy with how the stream's looking. Also, there's a good amount of people here too, so hi and welcome to all of you. I did my first stream in like almost over a year on Tuesday, and it had a ridiculously good turnout, but it kind of does that. Sometimes YouTube will push it, so I wasn't really sure if anyone would show up on the second one, but honestly, I consider once there's more than two, it's a party, so I'm really excited about that. And even though I like kind of chatting the whole time, and I always appreciate like people popping in the chat and commenting what I'm saying and stuff, I just like seeing the number of people kind of lurking and hanging out, because if I'm not like the actual content creator, I am 100% a lurker. I never comment, I never interact. Obviously I have like my M3DM, like Mia K social accounts, but I also have like other accounts that are not labeled. I was gonna say the account name because it's really funny and I came up with it when I was like 8 and I've used it since, but that defeats the purpose of it being totally anonymous, I guess. Not like you want to look at that, but anyway, I don't know, I'm definitely like I'll like things and run away. I don't leave comments ever. Especially in streams. Oh my goodness, I was watching a stream on an artist I really like, and there was like 2 people there. Like the stream had just started, and she's like asking a question to the chat, and like no one, like I didn't respond, but I was like listening. I responded in my head, and she even said, she's like, "Oh, I can see people are here. Why isn't anyone answering my question?" And I was like, panic. Oh my goodness, like I just want to hang out. Please don't talk to me. That's kind of me in real life too. I like to just hang out. I've never been one of those people that have a problem with it being quiet. I've always thought it was peaceful. I remember in high school I'd be really mad. People were like, "Ooh, awkward silence," because I'm like, it's just nice. It's not awkward. Oh my goodness, that is blinding. Come on, MacBook. I don't need to be my whole screen. You're really trying with this new update to be smart, and stop it. I'm trying to pin my references on screen so you guys can see them, and it's fighting me. There we go. There we go. I'm going to erase Jason's last name. I don't know why. I don't think people will be looking it up, but just because. All right. That was a nice little coffee break, and let's get back to it. So for anyone that's just jumping in, I am sculpting a magical pangolin, which is pretty much just think of like Sailor Moon familiar-esque, and this adorable reference picture I found. How is that real? I like double checked. I'm like, is that AI? I'm like, no, it's real. They actually look like that when they're babies. All right. Obviously he needs some shaping. It's going fine. I'm actually really happy with the progress so far. I need to find a few more references from the front, I think. But if not, I'm going to default to kind of this like softed, rounded triangle shape because they'll bring more emphasis, like these big, cute eyes. Since I know I'm going for a more cute aesthetic, I can not worry too much about being perfectly accurate. All right. I'm trying to decide if I want to do the eyeballs right now first. I think I'm going to, just so I feel like the head's a little more finished, because the head really doesn't have a whole lot of different forms to define it. All right, so the way that I have been doing eyeballs recently is I throw some in, just some spheres, I duplicate it, and then I'm going to mask half of it, split them apart, and make each one of them an eyelid. I also like to go to polish by features really quick. So you see this little like rough edge goes from all jagged, I'll zoom in, all jagged to nice and smooth. And then from there I can close holes, which will make this solid. And then I will ZBrush with half turned on. There we go. I'll ZBrush a couple times, do another polish by features. There we go. Now I'll come back to this and you see he has eyelids. And the reason that I do this is because I used to just take the mesh around it and kind of sculpt on it to make him like, there, mad face or like sad face or something. But I found that I was deforming the actual like structure of the head too much. And even though I sculpt in like a semi-realistic way, it was just making the mesh kind of dirty. So instead I've been doing this eyelid trick instead. Gonna use my little inflate trick again. There we go. And now there's just a lot better structure, and I can do a lot more with the personality here. I do like the idea of it being kind of sleepy looking, but I'll kind of let this happen as I keep working on it. There we go. How much nicer is that? Now it's just not like a voidless head. I always wonder when people are watching streams, like if you guys can see what I see as far as like the next like few steps and where it's gonna go. I wonder if it'd be more fun if you guys were, if you have like no idea and you're just like, wow, that looks terrible. We'll see what happens. We'll check back in 10 minutes. All right, again, I think the head keeps getting away from me. It keeps getting longer. So I'm gonna shorten it up a bit and flatten it again. I'm gonna bring the nose in more. And then now I'm looking at my references to see the location of the eyeball to the rest of the head. So I'll just measure things in eyeballs pretty much. So I can see in this little baby reference here, there's maybe another eye, like 2 eyeballs of height. So I could maybe do a little bit more on top. But as far as the bottom goes, there's only like 1 eyeball. So I need to bring this up. I'll go ahead and grab my pinch brush and just, oop, that was not my pinch brush. Do a couple of those. I'm going to merge all of these eyeball pieces together really quick. Eyeball pieces, eyelids and eyeball, and making the eye a little smaller. Because even though I want to go like this kind of cute baby look, it's a little extreme right now. Okay. Oh goodness, we're getting real wide from the front, aren't we? To fix that, I will just squeeze it in there. So I've done a lot of messing around with the head, and obviously as I keep messing with the head, it has made the head really, really small. So we're going to now adjust proportions in Transpose Master. T-pose mesh. All right. So usually when I'm doing stuff that's like a cute proportion, I do like, I think it's like a 1:3 ratio. It's kind of chibi-esque. There we go. And I'm gonna start blocking out this pose I was talking about earlier. I think it'd be cute if he was kind of rounded. I'll just do it and you guys will see what I'm talking about. I'm having a hard time saying what I'm thinking about. He's gonna be a big C shape. So right now I'm kind of posing his little feet. I guess I've decided it's a boy. Oh, I fell out of symmetry for a second there. I want to do mirror and well, but I'm pretty sure if I do that, it's going to give me a vertex error when I go to repose, so I'll deal with that later. All right. Usually I don't pose until much later on, but in this case, I'm doing it pretty early because I plan to put all these scales on using array mesh. And if I don't have it pose before I do that, it's going to deform all of the hard work I do potentially in these scales. I'm usually really against or avoidant of just blanketing a model in a bunch of like texture, like the whole thing in scales, but that's quite literally what these guys look like. So at a little bit of a crossroads there. All right, let's go ahead and put his back leg on. Isn't this a cuter pose, guys? I hope this is making more sense now that you're seeing it actually happen in front of you. I think the tail's gonna work pretty well if I just flip it 180 degrees. Yep. Because I already had a pretty nice curve going. Here we are. It's really important whenever you're moving stuff with a 3D gizmo that you have the pivot point is where you have your gizmo located. Otherwise it really affects how the rotation happens. So let's say if I try to like adjust the rotation from here, I want to make sure that's where my rotation point is. That was using the same word to describe what I was doing, kind of like defining a dictionary word with that word. Let me try that again. You want the pivot point in the 3D gizmo to be in the same location. So if I'm gonna move from his hip, I'll move the gizmo there. If I have the gizmo on his knee, it's obviously not gonna work as well. There we go, that was much more coherent. Gonna kind of rotate the legs in a little bit more, and then I'm gonna be making them smaller as well. I'm gonna rotate the entire mesh a bit and lower the head. Oh, that's gonna be cute. Gosh, this is gonna be, I can see the finished product. If you're seeing this and you're like seeing disturbed alien baby, just trust the process. I can see the finished product right now, and it's gonna be a really cool model. All right, make these wings a little bit bigger. I love me some oversized wings. I really want to give this guy ears, but pangolins just don't have ears. Or I'm sure they do, like some hole in their head, like reptiles. But you know what I mean, like not like visible big floppy ears. I just want big floppy ears on this. All right, these back legs are really goofy, but we made a lot of progress here. And now we're gonna go back into our subtools using T-pose sub T, I think is what it's called. Yeah, that sounds like nonsense. Essentially Transpose Master, this first button on the left begins it and the one on the right ends it. I don't know why it's called T-pose mesh and P-pose sub-T. It sounds like nonsense. It really should just say begin to end. All right, here we go. So if you look over here, you'll see I have lots of subtools again instead of just one. All right, these feet are really not very cute. So I'm gonna break them back into their components. And I was able to do that because when I merged them, I didn't dynamesh or change the mesh in any way. So that means that they're still identifiable subgroups. And that means when I hit Shift and F, you can see the different colors. So if I do Command and Shift and click on it, I can select just one of those pieces at a time. I can't forget about my coffee. This is why I have a heated coffee mug. I know it's so bougie, but like, I forget about my coffee otherwise. I think someone new is here. Hello. Brent says, hello. I have to continually remind myself this is just the blocking phase. Oh, I know, right? I constantly have to tell myself that as well. I've gotten a lot better with it over the years, for sure. But I was just talking about that earlier in the stream. Not sure if you were here, but a lot of my students get so discouraged because, you know, they're looking at this mesh they're working on, and normally you check your work as you go, but it just looks like this. Looks like my camera's out of focus. I don't know how to fix it other than like putting my fingers in front of it and then moving them. That usually will fix it. But if not, I'm not sure. Focus on my finger. Now stop. I can deal with that later. If not, I'm just a little blurry. That's where my lovely husband comes in. He knows how to fix that kind of stuff. That's actually why we have, or should be a lot better audio than last time. I actually got a dedicated mic for doing these streams. The audio was fine last time. It wasn't like terrible by any means, but it wasn't the best to listen to. I had so much fun streaming, I think it was on Tuesday, that I was like, it's definitely going to be worth investing in a little bit better equipment. Another thing that makes things look baby and a little easier is having large hands and large feet. Think like puppy dog. And again, this isn't actually going to be like a baby, it's just going to be really cute. If you're looking at this, you're like, this is not cute. I'm like, it's at least a little cute. I think I'm gonna put like a little decoration on his head or something, like a crown. Even the requester asked for this and mentioned maybe some accessories to make them look fantasy, magical, otherworldly. And I do have a little crown asset that I made earlier last month that I think would fit really well. I think I put it into my head and headgear asset. Yes, it's right here. Oh, I've had people ask me before if I like sell these asset packs. I don't, because I would be horrified to share some of the topology on these. Like, I 3D print these models for a living, and I still cannot, where the topology doesn't matter, I still cannot share these in good faith because some of them are janky. They're just like kit bashing pieces. I mean, I guess I could price it accordingly or have a disclaimer. I don't know. It's just not work that like I'd be proud like putting out into the world as a product. So anyway, to reiterate, I do not sell asset packs. Isn't that cute? Just like a little crown of some sort. I'm gonna have to keep hiding it a bunch of times because this head shape definitely needs some help still. I think I need to shorten the back of the head. So I'm gonna use Trim Dynamic and just cut it pretty much. There we are. And then just make it a little more clear that it's the neck. When I go to blend all this mesh together and prep for 3D printing, that will be hidden anyway, but it kind of helps as I'm trying to find these shapes still. I'm gonna hide the eyeball again. And I'm also gonna grab a reference of a pangolin straight from the front. Print says, I think it's a great idea. I already forgot what I was talking about. I'm pretty sure you're talking about the asset pack, maybe. Sorry, I'm not totally sure, but I appreciate your comments still. All right, pangolin head straight. Front view. Come on, Google. Oh wow, they are very confusing from the front. Okay, I'm gonna take a screenshot of this and throw it into the references so you guys can see it. Making this concerned face because it's just so much weirder than I anticipated. Also having a hard time dragging this. Come on, get over there. So that's what we're dealing with from the front. Yeah, I'm way too wide. I knew I was too wide, but I didn't realize I was way too wide. Oh my gosh, they do have little ears that are like on some of them, like this, the ears are kind of visible. Okay, on most of them they're not, so I won't do that. Anyway. Oh, you specified. He said, I think print says, I'm saying print because I'm not sure how to say the first one. Patenade. Anyway, I think it's a great idea, the model you're making. Isn't it fun? It's not my idea or my concept. It's a request from a patron, but I agree. Very, very creative and cool. Anyway, so this is what we're dealing with as far as the reference. I'm going to scroll up because I think my little flamey logo is covering him a little bit. That didn't move it at all. That's okay. You can see most of it. So I'm going to zoom in here and we're going to squish. Oh, I said it right. Fantastic. I'll have to look up your username after the stream is done because it sounds like, prints. I assume you do, 3D prints as well, and you also do models. I would love to see what you're making. All right, we're gonna zoom in. We're gonna stare at this, and we're gonna do some big changes. I'm gonna duplicate this subtool just in case because, oh, there we go. So that's what I've been goofing up on so much. I had the nose way too low, but it seemed okay from the side view because it looked like he was just looking down. But that was definitely wrong. This is a really fun model to do on stream, but I think I would have been too shy to do on stream in the past because when you're doing a creature that's so new to you, it feels like being a baby sculptor again sometimes. And I know it's always like with art, you're always learning, but it takes it to even more extreme level. It's like all the landmarks I normally look for, and because I've sculpted a bunch of dragons, a bunch of people, that kind of stuff. This guy just breaks all of the rules for me. What? You look ridiculous. In some models, I never get quite right, or it takes me years. I just recently sculpted a wolf that I actually liked. I think wolves are incredibly challenging. I know people struggle with horses a lot too. I grew up as that weird horse girl, TM, and now I have a horse, so I spend enough time staring at them that it seems like that one came a little more naturally to me. Wolves, not so much. That was a really tricky one. All right, so I'm still staring at this guy right here, and now I'm going to start doing this kind of 3/4 view. I think we're really getting somewhere. Okay, another big key that I've been missing here is that this is more convex, so it's going to round out, not round in. I always like talking through my process, but I especially like talking it through when I know that there's other creators in the stream, because it can be nice to see, like, to demystify the process. Like, I don't just know what to do. I know what to look for and what's wrong. So it's kind of like, I like to tell my students, it's kind of like a big game of spot the difference. You look at two pictures and you're like, okay, this picture has a bush, this picture has a tree in that spot. Let's make this look more like a tree. And that's kind of how I do this. But like hundreds and hundreds of times. And even with all that like checking, and I've gone through this process so many times, you know, I still don't always do it right. I'm always picking up new tricks and new ways to look at things. People that have been part of this stream since the very beginning will notice that the model keeps getting really tall and I squish it down again, really tall and I squish it down again, because I am just still trying to figure it out. I think another way that I can make this a little more exaggerated is just to make it a little bit longer. There we go. And then now I can see right here that this is much more of a cylinder straight all the way. And this one's more, I have more of this triangular trapezoid that extends straight back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to round it out. Oh, I haven't been paying just close enough attention. I need to get an alert system in front of me too. But with the new fancy stream, like my little borders, and I have transitions with flames and stuff. If anyone has subscribed, it should pop up on screen with like a fun little animation and noise. And if that happened and I missed it, I'm mad. Thank you for subscribing. If you want to see it happen, you should try it. And obviously you can unsubscribe if you want to, but you should just hang around because this is fun. Prince says, I love watching other sculptors sculpt. Great way to learn new ways to go about something for sure. Absolutely. And when I was first learning, that was my biggest secret or tip, I guess, for advancing quickly, was instead of watching tutorials like how to sculpt a shirt or how to do whatever, I would follow streams of like professional sculptors that didn't even make tutorials. They would just share their work, and a lot of them weren't as chatty as I am. So I would just replay the same little silent clip over and over and over again. And it worked. It was very helpful. Sometimes really annoying because I'd be like, where is that button? Because I didn't really understand the concept of custom UI. So I would just spend a lot of time searching for where a button is. Speaking of, if you are a ZBrusher and you are searching for certain buttons on my screen, just ask me. I'm super happy to tell you where it is in these menus. It might take me a second to find it because I haven't had to look for it in so long. But if you don't want to, if you're shy and you don't want to ask me, if you go to the, I guess it's not Pixologic now, but the Maxon ZBrush website, they have a bunch of documentation where you can just type in like the word you're looking for and it should tell you what menu it's under. Like backface mask, for example. I use that constantly, toggling on and off in orange here, but it's actually located under like brush, auto masking, backface mask. Damn, I can't believe I knew where that was immediately. Anyway, but I don't think that's very intuitive, you know, so yeah. Let's get some more work done here. Even though I do love talking with y'all. Or at y'all. Either is fine. I'm starting to get closer to this shape here. I definitely have a more exaggerated, stylized thing going on, obviously. One thing nice about sculpting this goofy pangolin is that not only are there a lot of different kinds of pangolins and variations, the average person isn't dead set on like what these look like, so I got some wiggle room. That's why like sculpting hands is so notoriously difficult, or like human faces. We know what those look like. I assume you have been socialized enough to see enough people to like know what a face looks like, so that one's a little more intuitive. It's easier to know when it looks wrong, which is making this sculpt both more difficult for me and easier at the same time. So right now I see that this shape doesn't, the snoot does not taper very much. So, and that's also what gives it this really long appearance. So I'm actually grabbing pretty far back. And I don't even know where his mouth goes. Like, scoops up? Yeah. Really goofy. Okay. So this is the before and this is the after. Pretty much the same thing going on, but it's a little different. We're gonna stick an eyeball in the new one and see if I like it better. We're not gonna do two heads though. Nope, we're not. There we go. Oh gosh, before I move the eyeball, it looks really, really cursed. Okay. Moving the eyeball. Why does it look so much angrier now? What? I might like the old head better, which is okay. That happens all the time, and that's why I save a duplicate, just in case. I'm like, you know, I'm gonna try to do some thoughtful. He looks so mad. It's the eyelids, but goodness. Anyway, that's why I always keep a duplicate in case I do some exploring on shapes and I end up making it worse, because that does happen sometimes. Okay, now the new head is more accurate. It just needs some help still. We're gonna ZBrush with same turned on, and it's gonna kind of smooth out some of this lumpiness. God, this model looks really goofy. The little crown makes me feel better. The crown's a little off-centered, so I'm going to just scoot it over and then use mirror and weld so I can mess with it in symmetry again. I don't think I'm making a ton more progress on the shape of the head, so I need to move on to other shapes. I also know that at some point I need to like make the dive and get into these scales and see how that goes. Oh, I also want to get my original Pangolin back on screen for reference. Yeah, look how narrow that head is. Weird. All right, now I'm going through and I'm making all the other, like the main body and the legs a little bit smaller. So to quickly select these, I'm just holding down Option. I think it's Alt on Windows computers, and making them smaller. We are making progress. Their back feet are really cute. I think they just have these big like toenails on the fronts of them, and that's pretty much it. As of now, it kind of reminds me of little hooves. All right, I'm gonna merge this back down to the main part of the leg because I'm happy enough with this little foot shape. I'm pretty happy with how this is going overall. And then as far as the tail goes, I'm pretty sure it's a much wider taper at the base, which I pretty much have going. I'm gonna just make sure it doesn't widen up at the end again by going with the pinch brush. There we go. Ah. Working from all angles. That did not do what I wanted. I wish my camera would stop losing focus. Stop being goofy. You were so happy when I was testing you, and then once I use you, you're like, we're not doing that. I don't know why it wants to have focus like right here. Like, it's not helpful. What if I scoot the whole thing forward? Very sensitive. All right, now I'm focusing on getting a really nice like C curve to this tail. There we go. Connect Tucking that nicely to the back. Now we've got a funny thing going on, don't we? All right, I like it. There we go, that helped a lot. Just pushing that jawbone way forward. Also gonna go in with the clay brush and start adding a little bit more volume back here because what I have carved out for the eye socket is just too big. And right now I'm kind of looking at reference points of how close the eye is to the front or the back of the head, as now it looks like I need to move this even farther forward. I'm not too worried about the seam here though, because when I blend in the neck, it's gonna largely smooth that out and look like that anyway. All right, we need to make him not look so angry. So to do that, I'm gonna grab Move Topological, just so I can grab just this top eyelid a little easier without having to mask select or anything like that. I think this model should have more of a sleepy expression. I'm curious what you guys think. I could see the crabbiness being cute, but I'm always a fan of a sleepy looking cute model. And sleepy, but not sad, so I'll have to be careful. Moving these wings forward a little bit. I might go with really tiny wings instead of really big wings. I also want them farther offset. That way the front silhouette looks a little more clear. So I kind of have a funny crease right here, so I'm going to do Z-Mesher with same turned on, and it'll kind of blend that a little better. There we are. There we go, I'm happier with that. All right, I'm taking like my 10th trial at this stupid head. Oh my goodness. So right now, whenever I'm having a hard time trying to get something that's, you know, a tricky looking shape, I just keep giving myself attempts at it. So this is like my third time, I think, trying to get this head down. And obviously I was able to do it for the pangolin, that was like the dire pangolin, because he looks a little more intense, a little more realistic. But I'm really trying to get this more whimsical look. And that's you know, where artistry comes in, that's where it's a little more difficult. So you want to avoid tiring out your eyes and like overworking a mesh. I don't mean like from tiring your eyes from like a health standpoint. I mean like having a stale perspective on it. So I'll work on it for like 5 minutes, leave it alone, do some more parts of the body, come back to it. And I have a good feeling about it this time. We'll see. Because each time I look at it, it's a little more clear to me what I'm missing. I'm pretty sure what I'm missing right now is I keep pulling the snout out because that's the shape of this critter, but I'm losing this like whimsical, cute look to it. So that's what I'm gonna work on right now. You'll notice I'm making larger adjustments this time. So I think one of the mistakes I had earlier is I kept removing volume from the top of the head and squishing it that way, but I should have been removing volume from the bottom of the jaw up. Maybe. This is all in theory, because I'm still working on this. Tell you what, the next time I sculpt a small, magical, cute pangolin, I'm gonna just nail it. Maybe this goes so well and then I'm just known as the pangolin sculptor. This is my big break, guys. As if explaining what I do for a living isn't hard enough. Oh yeah, I'm not sure how many of you guys are like new to me just in general, but this is what I do for a living. This is my full-time job. I've been doing this since 2019. I'm a big fan of using mask and then this transpose line. So to get to this, you click on W to bring up your gizmo, and then Y will toggle between the gizmo and this transpose line. I think it's actually happening this time, guys. I think we're getting cuter. Oh, we're pancaked from the front. It's fine, it's fine. I think I'm actually going to use the taper function. There we go. All right, this is definitely the closest I've gotten so far. It can be kind of a confusing stream to watch when I keep editing the same pieces again. I guess it's not confusing, it's just a little different than my usual. Usually, you know, I'm making like a shirt for like the 100th time, but this time it's gonna be more like tribal looking, so I'm focusing on different details. When I'm doing like a structural sculpt like this, I usually avoid live streaming them because it requires, for me, a lot more focus. But I also used to be a lot more self-critical during the process. I'm not really like that anymore. I don't really mind. I mean, what? Worst case scenario, I hang out with y'all and I finish the sculpt off stream. It's really not a big deal. I really encourage any, like, all the creators that are watching this as well to think of your own art that way too, where it's like if you're having a really hard time with a sculpt or a piece of art or even piece of music, it's like, so what? You're struggling with it right now, but you can just try again later too. That's always something that really chilled me out. I remember when I was first learning and trying to get better at sculpting, I took everything as like a test. And if I didn't achieve something well, I'm like, oh, well, I failed that test, which is probably just from being in school for so long. But that's really not a good mentality to have to get anything done. All right, we're on a new head, like the 10th time. I liked using that taper function. I think that helped a lot. Keep it streamlined. Yeah, that's the first time I've looked at this model from like more than one angle, and it actually is it's looking a little more correct, isn't it? Hello. All right. Ella's Arcana Mini is here. Good morning. Ella is a super, super good friend of mine. She is just fantastic. I actually talked about you earlier, Natalie. I mentioned that you sent me peppermint tea when I was like dying. I talked about tea for a little bit. So right now I'm working on this magical pangolin, which... So Natalie, Ella, same person. She also is a sculptor, and so she'll know exactly the struggle here of something brand new for the first time. So this is the dire pangolin that I made. It actually looks quite cool and epic. But now we're making a cute, whimsical version of it, think like Sailor Moon-esque. And it's been a little bit of a hot mess. But I don't know, sometimes those are really the most fun ones to put on stream, and I think they can be the most helpful too for my students. I actually met Natalie by teaching her how to sculpt first. Now we're just actually good friends. I do give her like tips and advice every now and then, but for the most part, she teaches herself now. And she makes really cool stuff. She actually has a new project coming out soon. I don't know if you can post links in the chat, but if it lets you, you should. Dude, pangolins are so rad, right? All right, this is happening finally. I'm still not fully convinced that pangolins are real. The more I work on the sculpt, the more I'm like, what is this? I love this big nose though. It's really cute. Nostrils are a little too low, so I'm just gonna smooth that out and push these in there. There we go. Alyssa, I just woke up and you're saying so many nice things. It's what I aim to do. It's a good way to start my morning too. Even though I guess over here it's noon, but let's be real. I don't necessarily sleep a lot. I just stay up really late. So like I go to bed around midnight, 1 in the morning. So my days don't really start until like 8:30 or 9, which I know for most people is really late. But this is my morning. All right, y'all. It is time for me to start playing around with array mesh, which is really funny because I've used it enough times you think I wouldn't have to look up like my own tutorial on how to do it, but I still do. Oh, ZBrush crashed. Okay. Sometimes ZBrush just be sensitive. It does it more often when I'm on stream. It's kind of just the way of things, but luckily I save obsessively, so it never really affects too much. I was even thinking of taking a break. I'm like, you know what? I'll do a little bit more. And ZBrush is like, I read your mind. Crash. All right, actually I haven't saved this model in a hot minute, but that's why I obsessively have my quick saves every 3 minutes. All right, I don't think I lost very much. But speaking of, I really should save this model. We're gonna call it Magical Pangolin. Bam. All All right, let me scoot that over. All right, looking good. I'm gonna see if I can give this a little smile. I think that would help me immensely. Because right now I'm being so technical on this base form, trying to get it like not perfect, but I keep re-looking over it. And at this point, it might be better if I just kind of trust my gut and I just kind of move forward. All right, I don't need this to be that high poly. Let's do that. Ella says, love it when I'm like 90% done with the model, look up at the file name and it still says Dynamesh Sphere. Yeah. All right. Yeah, giving this a goofy little smile, I think it's gonna give me the life I need, guys. I'm glad I spent some extra practice here, really kind of looking at my shapes and stuff. You know, I might just need to accept what this model's gonna look like and just let it breathe. I just want to fight it. I really want to fight it. I really want these forms to make more sense to me than they do, but it's not, and that's okay. I guess despite what I said earlier on stream, it looks like I'm not gonna be the Pangolin Whisperer, guys. This is not gonna be what makes me famous. Okay, the little goofy smile make me very happy. There we go. And then Prince also mentioned I instantly go check my quick saves, right? Ella says, dude, yeah, just give it a giant goofy grin like a sleepy little baby, right? I was thinking sleepy is what I'm gonna be going for earlier, and looks like you're on the same page. It's funny, whenever I work on the head, it keeps getting smaller and smaller, and then I come back and make it really big again. There we go. All right, hey guys, it's finally happening. It's finally looking better. It was funny, like earlier in the stream, I was like, hey, I can actually see what this model's gonna look like, and then it just kind of, it juked me. I was like, I don't know what's going on, actually. But I do know that this little magical crown is, this is it. This is fantastic. I can't remember what model I made this for, but it was only last month. Well, now it's meant for this adorable cutie. I'm not gonna worry about having the back of it be visible. I'm actually just gonna mask that and delete it, and then round these off. It's just gonna sit nicely. There we go. Actually, I'm gonna pull these braids open a little more with my move brush. There we go. There we go. All right, it's time to make a scale. And I was gonna use array mesh, but now that I'm looking at the shape of this, I'm thinking I might actually go in and do it manually with this specific default brush in ZBrush, because it's actually really similar to what they look like. So we're gonna try that. And of course, we're going to start with the face because It's what I've been obsessed on. It's also like a very crucial part of the model. We're gonna round the head a little bit more. Big round baby head. And then from the front, we're gonna exaggerate this little smile. We're also gonna drop a quick save because I feel like I got some good momentum and direction going right now. And that way, if it crashes, I don't lose even a minute of progress. All right. So when you're using this brush, I find it easiest if you work from the back of the model and go forward, and that's what gives it layers a little bit better. If you go the other way and if you want to get really close overlap, sometimes it can be a little tricky. If anyone joins the stream right now, they're gonna like see this like smushy baby head and like this really cool dire pangolin and be like, is this the same model? No, I just sculpted a pangolin in the past and I needed moral support for this pangolin because it's very tricky for me. I'm doing my best and it's coming out just fine. All right, so right now I'm actually increasing the focal shift, and I'm doing this because if you watch, if I lower the focal shift, we're gonna get more of that fine detail in this default brush, and I want that to be softened out. I could just make my own custom brush for this, but it's so close to being exactly what I want that I'm gonna call it good. All right, I think that's gonna be good. We're gonna turn that off. We're gonna hide the crown because it's an accessory. I don't want to accidentally design around it. And we're gonna look at the pattern of this because it's kind of staggered. And I might not even end up using this. I might end up going with the array mesh like I mentioned earlier. I'm just undecided, so we're trying stuff out. So right now I'm beginning that staggered look of the scales. And very quickly, I'm not gonna be doing that though, because when this platelets like this come down the front of the snout, it's much more just straight. So I'm probably gonna turn off symmetry entirely to do that. I think I should have defined this eye socket a little better first. So I'm gonna jump over to my standard brush and turn on lazy radius. And we're gonna define this a little better. Being careful not to make it like a fourth eyelid. But just so I have some room here if I decide to, there we go. If I need that clear break. There we go. Just need a little more clarity between those forms. I'm even gonna go a step further and throw a mask on this edge. There we go. I forget that the lasso mask will go straight through the other side of the mesh, so it's easiest if you have your camera view locked on one side. All right, I have symmetry turned off right now. And we're just doing these small platelets right now. As I get closer to the snoot, I'm going to turn symmetry back on and we're gonna do rows of 2. I think this is gonna be a little too textured and a little too lumpy looking. But I also think I can smooth that out by using the standard brush on top. I'm actually going to flip these scales around to define the nose a little bit more. Yeah, I'm going to have to use a ray mesh because what's happening here is it's not distinct enough. Like, it looks like it's part of the mesh as opposed to being scales stacked on top of it, which is a little bit of a bummer because I like the texture of this. So this is going to have to be a separate mesh that's on top. And it looks like I already had the same opinion when I did the initial pangolin. Ella says, have I told you I'm going to do a whole Druid Familiars project in the new year? You didn't. That sounds fantastic. That just sounds like a really good time. Druids are my favorite class too, so I'm especially excited to see that project. All right, so that was a whiff. That was an attempt and a whiff, which has been a lot of this model. All right, let's go ahead and make a scale. All right, so I have a sphere in here. I'm gonna squish it down, flatten this edge a bit, throw on a low resolution Dynamesh, and taper. I did all that pretty quick, so if you were watching that and you're like, what just happened? Let me know, I'm happy to explain what just happened. I'm also going to flatten both edges a bit to make it even more scale-like. Doing some Z-Remesher with half turned on. Alrighty. Looking pretty good. We have our scale. It's at 412 points, which is low. However, a lot of these I don't need. So I'm gonna jump into the Z Modeler brush. I have Shift F turned on to see the wire frame. And I'm going to hold spacebar. Actually, I don't need to. I'm just gonna make sure that I'm hovered over the insert edge loop and I'm gonna hold down Option, which will remove them instead. And right now I'm just deleting some edge loops because I just don't need that many points. See, I'm already down to 279, which is almost half what I started with. And I don't really do this so much as a performance issue. I do it just to, if I can work lower poly, I like to be as low poly as possible. All right, we got a pretty good scale happening here. Looking at my reference, making sure this is the shape I want to use. It's so low poly that it'll be really easy to deform and adjust if I need to as well. Okay. There we go. I like it. Let's see if I can remember how to use Nanomesh. All right, I click B for my brush palette, create insert mesh, new, not append, and then create Nanomesh brush. You'll want it to be fairly low poly and pretty even. I mean, it really depends what you want your application for. I want an application of a smooth, like evenly spaced scale, so I'll want my each polygon to be about the same size. Ella said, you can try going into brush modifiers and turn up the strength. That was probably a couple seconds ago. I already forgot what I needed it for, but I appreciate the tip. Ella says, as well, smooth scale makes my smooth brain go burr. I like how your comment before is all like, ooh, intelligent tip, and then smooth brain. Fantastic. This has been a really good time. Thank you guys for hanging out. We've been doing this for about an hour and a half, almost on the dot actually. I'm going to be streaming Monday through Friday starting around 11 a.m. every single day, and that's Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to hang out with me more, make sure you subscribe so you get that notification. I do plan to be pretty consistent with the schedule, but it doesn't hurt, just get notified. I have an alarm on my own phone to notify me of my own stream. I got the ZBrush brush. There we go. Bam, it actually worked. First time, crazy. I want to say I used array mesh last time to do this. We'll see. So right now it's insert mana mesh on a single poly, but I actually want it to be on all of them. Even though I'm not sure what if their bellies are smooth. In this picture of the baby, it kind of looks like they have the same scales on their belly. So I'm just gonna do the entire model. So I will do all polygons. Bam. Obviously it looks, you know, a little messy and there's a lot of clipping happening. And that's why you come into this sub menu palette to specify how things are gonna happen. So I can do fit, fill, constant, and clip. I might try a difference like fill and constant somewhere around there. And then alignment's one of the first ones I go to, and that will change where all of these scales are facing. Doesn't it look nice? So it looks like they're all kind of upside down compared to what I intended. So I can go into a rotation to do that. Look how cool that looks. All right, and then the Z rotation, because I mentioned it's kind of upside down compared to what I wanted. So I'm gonna flip the orientation to what I need, and now I will flip the other way. Flip, flip, flip. I can increase the size a little bit too. That looks so nice. Well, that's a good little confidence booster. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know how to sculpt and how to do this, but I've done this stupid baby pangolin head like 6 times, I mean, twice or 3 times. Anyway, this is a nice confidence booster. Look, I know how to use ZBrush. All right. So I don't like how some of these are getting more distorted. So I might keep it so where these are constant or something. I kind of like this is giving a natural size gradient though. Undecided. I do like putting a little bit of variation in sometimes too, but in this case I probably won't because they're so truly uniform just by nature's design. I'm gonna put a little bit more rotation in though to offset some of that clipping. I think I want to go, there we go, slightly to the left. Slightly, not a lot. Ooh, it's sensitive. Look at that cutie patootie. All right, so when you're using nano mesh, this is just a preview of it. In order to actually make this a real mesh, you have to go over to inventory and do 1 to mesh. I'm not gonna do that yet because I want to keep this preview going on each piece and see how they all fit together at the end. So we're gonna do the same treatment with the tail. Because I feel like I know what's going on with these pieces. It's just the dumb head. Which is looking much cuter. I'm just being a little... Another reason I'm struggling with the head is because I'm unclear on what I want. Like I keep wanting to make it realistic and get all these like markers, and I also want to be like whimsical and surreal looking. So I'm trying to do both at the same time. What I should have done is probably just cut this head directly from the dire penguin, stick it on here, and then make it look a little more whimsical. That would have saved me a lot of time and been easier on my brain. But every now and then it is nice to try and do it completely fresh from scratch. All right, let's get this tail going. We're gonna do constant. We're gonna flip this around again. That looks correct. Oh, and then alignment. I think I did align to short edge on the top one. Oh, there's a lot of options here. Okay, the bottom 3 are definitely wrong. Yeah, it's gonna be aligned to normal. Okay. Oh, I can increase the length. Ooh, I might adjust that on the body earlier. All right, back to rotation. There we go. Also gonna make this a little larger. That That looks so good. All right, very cool. And there we are. There we go. We got some goofiness going on right here, but it looks fine on the other. So what's happening right here? Wow, you can really tell. Is I have the normals going in one direction on one side and the other direction on the other side, and I have it aligned to normal, so it's mad about it. But that means if I try other alignments, it's gonna be flipped on one side anyway. So something that I can do is I can either remesh this tail without the nanomesh preview on, or I can apply this to mesh and just mirror and weld later. The only problem with mirror and weld later is that I might get little artifacts wherever they overlap. So there's things happening. Ella says, sometimes when I'm truly frustrated with an animal model, I will literally find a photo of the animal in profile, throw it up on ZBrush screen, just squish the face into the right shape. Yeah, I've tried that. That's something that I do as well when I'm doing a realistic one. But in this case, I keep doing this like in between. But that's a super, super solid strategy. I did that when I was sculpting I did a wolf earlier this week that I actually really liked how it turned out. And I'm pretty sure I did that for the ears. They're so much fluffier than I remember every single time. Goodness, wolves have the biggest, fluffiest ears. All right, I'm gonna turn nanomesh off. I'm going to, if I do mirror and weld on this mesh, will it change the normals? I don't know. It didn't. I'll do ZBrush the same. Mirror and weld, see how that affects the nanomesh. Align to normal. Fit. Nah, it's like me flipped. That's fine. Ella said the baby pangolin face is already so cute and sweet. Thank you. It's come a long way in an hour and a half. You know, I don't do enough of being kind to myself on that. Like, I work very quickly. Like, it's okay if it looks kind of crappy in an hour and a half. I have many hours in the day, you know? We can always try again. I wonder if I can move the mesh. Ooh, that's cool. I've never done that for some reason. So, as I mentioned earlier, this nano mesh is a preview, right? Which means that before it's applied, I can actually still manipulate the mesh under it, and it will like live update. That's really cool. Speaking of, I can do a better seam transition between the tail and the little body. All right, we're gonna do these little arms now. There we go. I might need to do another ZBrush on this, so there's less scales. That's gonna be too many scales, I already know it. So we're gonna turn that off, and we're going to ZBrush by half. There we go. As I mentioned earlier, I usually don't like blanketing models in detail like this, but this is literally what they look like. So I like what I did up here more with the dire pangolin, but it's not accurate at all. So we'll see what I end up doing. Trying out all kinds of stuff today. Oh, this is upside down again. There we go. Bam. Doesn't that look so cool? Like, if you're just listening to the stream, I encourage you to look up right now because like it looks like it's breathing if I adjust this rotation. It's just really cool. Those little arms are really cute. I do think it's too much detail, so something that's nice about nanomesh is that once I do one to mesh, each of these scales will be auto groupable, so I can delete individual scales and do a smoother, smaller texture there to give some different options. Taylor says, wow. Right? Isn't that cool? It's fun to look at. I'm assuming you were looking at the breathing thing. I love how the head is just perfectly smooth. Smooth brain. I'm avoiding it. It's fine. All right, we're gonna go ahead and Dynamesh this together. Oh, that didn't do a great job, that's fine. We're gonna Dynamesh this slightly higher resolution. There we go. And now we're going to ZBrush by half. Taylor said, do you ever sculpt architectural elements? I can imagine using this for roof shingles. Yep, and I've used it for exactly that. I have a Mimic series where I have a gazebo and a well. And so for the top of the gazebo and for the well, I did like brick shingles, and that's what I use this for. It came a little more naturally to me too, because you were at the last stream too. My background's in engineering, so I initially learned modeling and stuff in SolidWorks, which is a far cry from sculpting. And in case you're listening and you're like, sculpting, modeling, like, isn't that like the same thing? It is. It's all 3D design and drafting, but essentially modeling is usually more reserved for this kind of view where you are manipulating individual vertices and polygons. And then sculpting is more of like this clay-like sculptural stuff. Like you imagine like physically playing with clay. Ultimately, I'm not really too picky on what people call which. 9 times out of 10, I know what you mean. I used to be a lot more picky with it when I was doing commissions instead of requests, because I'd have people that were like, hey, can you sculpt me a skyscraper? And I'm like, no, because that's not sculpting and I'm not good at modeling, so no. But now I'm okay at modeling, so I don't really specify the difference as much. You guys would crack up if you knew the kind of commission offers that I get. And I know it's like a paid offer, but like, it's so weird. Like I get a decent amount of DMs about modeling statues for like sports games or like fantasy football leagues and stuff. And I'm like, it's not that I can't do it. I just like, that's so not what I do though. Like I sculpt dragons and like cool like warriors. I did like a lion folk barbarian a couple days ago. I don't know, it just seems odd. Like I'm sure there was like trophy makers that you could have reached out to. Maybe my mindset on that is wrong. They're like, they see that I'm a professional, so they're like, hey, can you do this? That is reasonable. It feels weird to me. It feels like going to like an ice cream man being like, can you make me a hot dog? That's what it feels like to me. And it's like, yes, but no. Taylor says, oh, I love CAD modeling. Do you still use it? I don't, because it's so expensive. So expensive. Like Maya? No. SolidWorks? No. I had my student email for a couple years after I graduated, it just stayed active. So I had a really cheap and actually free access a little bit for SolidWorks, so I'd still play around with it. But now I do not, so I don't use it. So any modeling that I do is in ZBrush. And then I used to do a little bit more playing around in Blender, actually. But not anymore. Taylor, it sounds like you have a lot of modeling experience, like art experience. I'd be very curious to know like what you do, like if it's a professional thing for you or more of a hobby or a mix of the two. Obviously only share if you feel like talking about yourself, but it's cool that you have experiences in this kind of stuff. I'm trying to decide what orientation I want these little scales. Because I don't like that this flat edge is showing. So we're gonna keep rotating. There we go. Oh, that's why offset. That's why I was using the wrong tool. What do you know? There we go. That's looking a little more what I want. Ooh, weird. That looks way different. Yeah, I'm gonna need to go in here with the Move Topological brush, and I'm gonna pull some of these scales around to fill up these gaps, but I think for now it's good. Taylor says, use plasticity. It's a lot cheaper. And then for CAD work. Okay, very cool. I've actually never heard of plasticity, which I'm surprised. I feel like I've heard of almost every software out there. Obviously not. There you go, plasticity, CAD for artists. Oh, cool. Hey, they actually have a Mac installed too. Very good. They have a free trial for 30 days. I like it. And then it's $300. Is that one time? Is that not a subscription? Oh my goodness. I like it even more. I'm going to bookmark this. Very, very cool. And then just a little quick sidebar. This is what I'm looking at, this plasticity. Pretty clean. Very cool. Oh, they have a Blender bridge too. I even mentioned using that too, so that's really cool. This might be a lot quicker to make some of the things that I do. I'm gonna keep that in mind. Thank you very much for sharing that. Very cool. Oh my god, guys, that's so much texture. This is not how I do things, but it's fine. This is the base, and then I'm going to take a lot of these scales off, and I'm going to have some different options here. I realize that pangolins are in fact covered in all these scales, but I need more difference in texture. Like you can see, like right here, the underside of their face is perfectly smooth. So I'm going to make sure I have that showing. I always harp to my students that you want like 3 levels of detail or hierarchy. So you have like your main forms, your medium, and then your small little details like skin pores, that kind of stuff. This is just blanketed in medium detail. It's not my favorite. But that's a-okay because this is a really good base. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate this head so I have a copy, and then I'm going to keep ZBrushing this by half because I don't want a ton of scales on top of this. I just want a few, and I'm really going to delete most of the scales. There we go. Yeah, can you imagine having scales in the eyeball? Not only does that sound uncomfortable, it doesn't look right. All right, align to normal. And now we're going to adjust the rotation. That looks so cool. All right, I think I'm going to go a little lower poly still. I'm going to ZBrush by half one more time. There we go. And drag and drop one more time. Align to normal. This is the first time I've used nano mesh without needing a tutorial. It's not even so much because like it's so complicated. It's just like if you don't click a certain series of buttons, nothing happens, right? Okay, let's look at this square on. I'm mostly focusing on this top ridge because everything from the chin under, like the eyeball, I'm going to be removing anyway. And then for anyone that's new to this stream, just kind of like a high intro. My name is Mia. I'm part of M3DM. That's me and my husband. And we do this for a living. We make models for 3D printing and Dungeons & Dragons minis and that kind of stuff. I say D&D, but I think most people that download my stuff actually play Pathfinder, it seems like. So, tabletop games in general. This is a request from someone that supports me on Patreon. Anyone in the Legendary tier can make a request every month, and this is one of those requests. So that's what I'm working on, and that's been my focus. I used to do more large projects that I would dictate and decide every model and stuff, but I have over 800 models at this point, so I'm able to spend my time on more niche things like a magical pangolin, which is really fun. So right now I'm looking for that flat edge again and getting this rotation correct. The head is a little tricky. I might even go through and not use array mesh, and I might put these in manually. I think that's what I'm gonna do, because I do have an insert mesh here that I created that I can use instead. And then Taylor says, to answer your question, my scales are simulations and procedural modeling in Houdini, CAD modeling and plasticity, and also procedural texture development in various programs. But I can't sculpt. Alas, it tends to be that way, right? You got one or the other. Taylor says, I do this professionally and as a passion. Well, I'm really glad that you have that overlap. That's very, very cool. I know it can be tricky to balance the two because, you know, that's what I do. I totally get that. It's a little different because, you know, I answer to myself as the boss, but that's a whole video in itself, just talking about like mixing like what you do as a passion and for work. I've been very fortunate that it has not harmed my passion for what I do at all. But that doesn't happen on accident. There's definitely a lot of care and thought into making sure I don't get burned out. All right, so now I can look at this reference pretty closely and I'm thinking and doing stuff at the same time, and I'm obviously good at doing one or the other. Anyway, I'm gonna look at this reference of this cutie right here and put the scales on manually because the array mesh is just, it's not gonna, I have such a specific vision in mind, I can't expect it to do exactly what I'm thinking of without spending the time to make sure the polygons provide that template. And at that point, it's faster for me just to do it by hand. All right, I'm gonna work from the snoot down. It's funny, it feels like I'm working on the small really slowly because I'm talking through all of my thoughts and that kind of stuff. But it's almost been 2 hours and I have a model that's mostly finished. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. And a lot of the fine tuning is going to come in the last 30 minutes or so. And that's going to take the somewhat creepy endearing to just endearing. How I'm going to get from this point to that point, I do not know. But I trust that I will do it because I've done it like, how many models have I made? 800 times before, so. That's the pep talk for me, to me. So, kind of on topic, and I swear this will all connect in the end. About a few weeks ago, we stopped getting hot water in our shower. And so we did the usual thing, like we kind of troubleshoot hot water heater, that kind of stuff. We were pretty sure it was the mixing valve, and that was something that Ricky and I weren't comfortable replacing ourselves, so we called a plumber. And he comes out, and sure enough, it wasn't the mixing valve, it was like right in front of it. But anyway, as he's looking at it, the way that it was plumbed was a little odd and kind of hard to get to, and there was unnecessary like C brackets all like bolted in there, so it was a huge pain, right? And he looks at it and he sighs and he's like, you know, I've been doing this for 20 years and it just never gets easier. And like he laughs, like it sounds heavy, but he laughs. And that's how I feel about sculpting too sometimes, where like I think it's normal to watch artists do what they do and you're like, wow, they have the skill and things just happen. No, I go back to the basics all of the time. And it's like, maybe I get faster, but it's very tiring. And on days I sculpted a lot, I swear I eat more, I sleep more. Like, it takes it out of you, it really does. Also on a side note, that plumber swore the whole time that he was fixing, it was so funny. Oh my God, it was like this like quiet drone in the background. It was very funny. We gave him a pretty good tip. And because I live in a really small town, it turns out he lives like just on the other side of the mountain. So that was funny. It feels weird calling it a mountain because I grew up in California around like in the valley. So I saw the Sierra Nevadas. Like to me, like those are mountains. And now I live close to the Smokies. And like, obviously the Smokies are really tall, but I live kind of like the foothills, I guess you would say, of the Smokies. And it's really more like a big hill that I live next to. It's too tall to call it a hill. But calling it a mountain feels ridiculous too. I haven't decided what I'm gonna call it. All right, so I laid these out and I'm somewhat happy with them, but you're seeing I'm getting rid of them right now. And I'm doing that because this model, since it has this same scale over and over again, I need to be extra careful with visual interest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a small increase in size as I work up. And that's going to help alleviate some of the stuff I'm trying to avoid here. And then once I get to like the crest of the head, I'm just going to maintain the same size all the way through. I like this scale shape because it kind of reminds me of like the decorative armor, I guess you would say, armaments they'd put on like elephants. Kind of reminds me of. Oh, and Ella says, "'Twas a lovely peck talk." Thank you. Can't believe the week is almost over. Already Thursday. This week just flew by for me. Honestly, all of October has been pretty quick, which bums me out because I really like October and I'm trying to, I don't know, I like to absorb as much as possible. That being said, that means that it's almost time for Dragon Age Veilguard to come out, which I am absolutely over the moon about. Really, really, really excited. Honestly, the week following that, it's like what, November 2nd to the 4th? I'll probably live stream like once because I'll just be playing Veilguard. I've actually doubled up the work that I'm doing, or my goal is to get like twice the amount of models done in this week so I can just take a couple days off to play Veilguard. We'll see what actually ends up happening. Obviously, like, I gotta get my stuff done, but it'd also be nice if I can just play Veilguard for a few days uninterrupted. I realize most people would call that a weekend. When you work for yourself, it's a little different. I'm not saying I don't take days off. I'm just saying it's a little different. Something I like to do to avoid the tedium of little tasks like this is I will cheat, and instead of using the 3D gizmo to like really tediously move each thing perfectly, I'll just grab the move brush and turn the Z intensity up a lot and just smush it around a tiny bit. And as long as I'm not moving it around too much, it works just fine. So I'm gonna be really careful as I'm going around this eye area because this is where a lot of the personality of the model is. So I'm gonna make this scale a bit larger. I'll need to rotate that scale later. And I'm undecided on how I want these all to fit in. You'll notice I'm only working on one side, and that's because I find when you have symmetry turned on, you're working with the gizmo, it makes it a little weird, like the pivot point feels like it's off. So what I like to do instead is just work on one side and then mirror it at the end. I might just scooch the whole eyeball up to match these scales when I'm done. Also gonna drop a quick save because I feel like I'm threatening ZBrush by making too much progress. This has honestly been one of the most challenging models I've made in a long time. It doesn't even look like that crazy impressive. It's just testing a lot of like fundamentals that I haven't had to use in a bit. And I'm really glad that I streamed it. Sometimes it can be nerve-wracking to stream when you're not at your best, I guess. Like, there's a lot of coolness about creating stuff seemingly effortlessly, but that's really just not the case. So I'm really glad that I streamed this. It's more authentic, if you will. I think it's also nice to have streams that aren't super, I guess, like action-packed, getting like a ton done. It's like it can be nice just kind of hang out and have a quiet stream where I can just focus on some little details. I actually think I would have found this model a lot more frustrating if I was doing this in a vacuum. So yeah, thank you guys for hanging out and kind of like sharing your comments, and it's been nice. Even if you're just lurking, I can see your number. I can see that, like, I can see the amount of people that are here, so it's always really appreciated. Taylor says, I enjoy seeing how artists tackle how they contend with difficulties, rather than it being effortless. It tells you how they think and approach the craft. Absolutely. But there's also like the ego part of it, and I'm like, it feels good when I'm like on a stream and I'm just like going through it, no hurdles, you know what I mean? And this one has been, oh my gosh, what's that saying? There's like a easy peasy lemon squeezy, and then there's difficult lemon, difficult. It's just a goofy thing I saw on Reddit a long time ago, and it stuck with me. This is difficult lemon. All right, I have a lot more pieces here to contend with, and so I can kind of start getting some details in here. I'm gonna go ahead and mirror and weld. All right, that little head and crown piece. Oh, come on. That's so cute. Okay, that's making me feel a lot better. Or even better. I've actually, my lowest point of the sculpt has already passed. We've been on the up and up for a bit now. In the past, I've definitely ended streams when I felt like I was having like a crisis of confidence, if you will. I'm not sure why I did that. I forget that it's fun to see like a creative be like, that's a recontend of like, how do I do this? How am I gonna approach this problem? I think I'm more sensitive to it because I did not enjoy engineering school at all. And it feels like that sometimes. And it's just like, ooh, I don't want to fail this assignment. But it's like, I can't fail the assignment. I work for myself. I don't know. That's one thing that's awesome is I do work with my husband, and he is not as picky and critical as I am. So I can make like some goofy, dumb model, and I can be like, I can show it to him and be like, please say something nice about it. And he always has something nice to say about it, which is really nice. Guys, it's actually looking really cute. Oh my god, the head. I really should have just put scales on it sooner. Jeez. A lot of suffering. Alright. The blanketed detail that we have going on here. It is not the way to do this. We're gonna get in here and fix this. So we're gonna go back to Nanomesh. Actually, we're gonna drop a save because I'm feeling good about this. Let's go. Oh, and Ella said something too. I want to read this. Ella says, one time I said to my painting mentor, quote, I was in the depths of despair when describing a sculpt, and he just looks at me with pity and concern and a glint in his eyes and goes, over a model? And she says, I think about that a lot. Yeah. Yep, that's fair. That's totally fair. You gotta regulate those emotions, but it's a passionate thing, you know, to create something, and it can be, especially if you've been creating for a while, it almost feels like a betrayal when things don't go the way that you were expecting. So I absolutely love horseback riding, and if you own horses or have been around horses, you know really quickly that it's not like having a dog. Like, you can have a dog, but you don't have to be a dog trainer, right? If you have a horse, you don't have to be a horse trainer, but you gotta have some of those tools in your belt. And that one's especially tricky because they're their own, you know, semi like sentient being, and it can be very tricky and scary when things don't go well. And I know that's a lot higher stakes, but I always remind myself of that and like how I always stay calm in those situations and I push through that because like usually there's bodily harm at risk if things go wrong or 1,200-pound animal spooks. But with sculpting, I can just walk away and get a snack, maybe take a nap. Like, the stakes are low. So if you're a creative, like, remind yourself of that. Be kind to yourself, even if you're doing it professionally to turn into a boss that's a jerk, or maybe a client that you're not really excited to work with. Like, give yourself some grace, and it'll happen. It will happen. And I promise you, it won't happen if you're not giving yourself that kindness. All right, so I'm gonna give him a soft, squishy belly, because that's how we do things here. I'm gonna kind of texture it the same way as this, but not as wrinkly, because when you put wrinkles on baby looking things, I've realized it's like super horrifying. I could write a notebook, or not a notebook, but like a guide of like how to baby when sculpting, because I have sculpted so many baby things and I have made some monstrous looking stuff before. Speaking of, there's a couple people here, and I'm sure some of y'all lurkers are new. I want to see if I can pull up this reference really quick of an old model that I did. I was working on a Yeti. It's a baby Yeti. And oh my goodness, the work in progress for this was something else. Ooh, I found it. Y'all are in for a treat. Okay, cool. I'm really, really glad I found this. All right, so a little break on the stream here. If you're just listening, I encourage you to glance up real quick. So this is this baby Yeti that I made. Really cute, right? Like, who doesn't? I nailed it. I love this thing. You want to talk about a crisis of confidence? Oh my goodness, y'all. Look at this. Look at that. I was like, I have never sculpted. What? What's my favorite part about showing this screenshot is that I poly painted it. Like, I gave it like little blue eyes to like kind of like pep talk myself. Oh my god. But I had a little snack, I took a little break, and I came back to it, and we got back to this again. So there we go. And in case you're wondering, like during this stream, why I have like the adult like pangolin in the background, the reason for that is because that's how I tend to approach my baby models. I like to make, I sculpted this as well. I'm really proud of this one. This Yeti looks epic, really, really cool. And then I tried to make a baby version, and it first came out like this. Oh my god. I really enjoyed this. Okay, moving back on to what we're doing. Ella says, with some models, it is an absolute imperative that you trust the process. I know, but on some days, it's very hard to trust the process. Like, I don't want to trust the process. I just want it to happen. All right. We're back. We're back to the sculpt, y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed that little intermission. Another thing that helps when you are trying to blend like high detail or medium detail to a different kind is try not to have like perfectly straight lines like this. I like to break up every now and then, just like kind of a uneven pattern. Even on animals like you think like tigers have like these perfect stripes and stuff. It's pretty blurred on the edges and stuff. Like, it's not as sharp as you might think it is. I know that's a tip for like oil painters as well. You want to know something complicated? Oh my goodness, I follow some oil painters. That stuff is crazy. The way they like fake or portray like sharp lines, and everything is blurry when you look at it up close, but it just looks incredible. So cool. Painting is one of those things I kind of look at similar to like violin. It's one of those things that I tried and was untalented at. Not neutral. untalented, which is okay. Talented at other things. This came to me pretty naturally. Anyway, so therefore anyone that can play violin or can paint, specifically like oil painting, I'm just like, wow, you are a creative master. And it's funny because I know that I do this. I put like disproportionate value on things that I cannot do. It doesn't mean that they're inherently more valuable. It just, in my head, it's more impressive then. For a little more context here, I play piano. I was a classically trained pianist for, I took lessons for 12 years. I'm pretty good. It came to me pretty naturally, and piano is really cool because I learned sheet music, so I can, if you show me where the notes are on any instrument, I can play something. It's very slow, but I can do something. So I was like, I'm going to teach myself violin. The thing about violin is if you walk up to a piano, anybody can press a key and it will sound like something. It might be louder or softer or whatever, but it will sound like the instrument that it's supposed to. You pick up a violin and you draw a bow across that string and you... It's terrible, y'all. Oh my god, it's so difficult. There's so much technique just in that alone. Oh goodness, I was humbled in the best way. Anyone that's listening that plays violin, fiddle, viola, even like upright bass, you're so cool. You're so cool. I just think you're the coolest. And if you play piano, that's fine. I do that too. Jokes. All right, we got some really weird kneecap issue going on here. So the arms and legs are going to take a little bit more work. And I'm not really sure how I want to texture these. I don't love how small the scales are on this. I might just make the arms bigger. I actually like how the array mesh turned out on this a lot because these little like hooked little paws, it is what they look like somewhat in real life too. So I'm happy with that. We're going to do one to mesh on this as well. Oh, that's right. It's a little different on both sides. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And then we have some scales that are kind of floating away from us. So I'm going to just go to move topological and I can just grab and smear that down. The reason that the reason I do use move topological is because it'll grab distinct meshes within a subtool automatically. Also going to copy and paste this scale right here to kind of cover up that little naked area. There we go. And then there's a little too much going on right here. A little too many scales. So we're gonna clean that up. There we go. There we are. That looks much nicer. Gonna delete hidden, and then we're gonna rotate this scale to match the flow of the other ones. There we are. Very nice. Oh, it is coming together, y'all. I never doubted myself. Jokes. I was fully like, I'm gonna have to do the rest of this model off stream because I don't know how to fix it. Sometimes you never need to know all the steps for anything. You just need to know the next step. That came out sounding more deep than I expected. I like that. I'm gonna remember that. Ella, little Nikki area. Yeah, it's just the fact of Nanomesh sometimes. Again, thanks y'all for hanging out. This has been a really good time. My little stream debut back was super hot because it got pushed by the YouTube algorithm, but this one's still doing really good. So honestly, having more than 2 people I think is a major, major success. More than 2 people at any given time, like that's actually a lot. And if I stream for a couple of hours, it adds up to like dozens, which is really cool. And then Ella says, I think that's a lyric from Frozen 2. That sounds about right. I think half of my personality is just like fairy tales and Disney movies, so that checks out. Absolutely. By no means would I ever call myself a Disney adult. But obviously, I like myself a good Disney movie. I recently watched quite a few because, as I mentioned a little earlier in the stream, I was deathly ill at the beginning of this month, so I rewatched a bunch of movies that I enjoy. I think I rewatched Tangled, and then I also watched The Emperor's New Groove. I haven't seen that in forever, and that was even better than I remembered. My husband was also deathly ill, so we would just keep quoting Emperor's New Groove and talking in like Kronk's voice, which I can't do at all, but I try. Then Ella says, yeah, fun. I'm putting the final touches on the Ella Kickstarter page, so it's nice to hang out. Yeah, I'm glad. And it feels nice, kind of like a little art party for us. For people hanging out, Natalie and I, she was a student of mine, and then we're just ended up being really good friends. She actually flew out when I moved across the country to meet me, so we've met in person, which feels especially cool. Meeting strangers online. Just joking, she obviously wasn't a stranger. But now we just hang out. We used to art party more frequently, but that's one of the downsides of me moving across the country. We're not in the same time zone anymore, so it can be a little tricky to actually line up. But this works out really good, because I'll just be here, and then you can hang out anytime. I mean, I guess we can't gossip like we normally do because we're such big gossips. Jokes. Alright, we have another little nakey area. I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's like a knee bend. I think it... Oh no, it'd be on the back where there would be less scales then, if that made sense. Never mind. Gosh, there is just way too many scales on this leg. I'll deal with it in a second. Yeah, frozen always makes me cry too. Taylor says, baby needs a baby hair or scale curl. Yes. Yes. I'm thinking like right on top of his head. I want to see what that's going to look like. I want to try that. I should have that scale default. Yep. Bam. Flip. Cute. So right now I'm going to bend arc. Did a nice little smooth curl here. Let's kind of see what this looks like. At the very least, it'll kind of look part of like the decorative crown and just have a little bit more interest, I think. That's really cute. I'm gonna keep this here. I'm gonna mess with it a little bit. I might duplicate it and put 2. It's looking not so much like cute baby hair, it's looking like cute headdress, but I really like that. I might add more of these down the back of the model to give a secondary shape. That's some of that whimsy I was trying to fit in earlier. Oh my goodness, I love that. Now I want a bunch of them. It just makes the head so much more interesting, and when this gets painted, oh my gosh, this especially will look cool. Oh my goodness, I love that. Okay, I'm just gonna have those sit there for a second, and I'm gonna come back to them later. But at the very least, that's so cute, and it fits in well with like the wings and the feathers too. Are you sure you don't sculpt? That was a good eye. I especially like it because it's getting me away from trying to make this look so like more realistic, which it's obviously not, you know? So like just let it be what it wants to be. And it wants little fan feathers on its head. So right now I'm going through and kind of just deleting like every other scale because this is just too dense. What I really should do is I should go back and I should redo the nano mesh on this. These scales are too small. Yeah, too small. But I don't think it's worth the effort. I really think it's fine. So you'll hear, if you tune into more streams, you'll hear me say that a lot, like it's not worth the effort. And that can be kind of easily confused with like not caring. Like I care a lot, but sometimes when you let yourself obsess on a bunch of like tiny details, you end up not making any progress. It's very much so like the 80-20 rule. So I'm always doing what I can to be cognizant of that. That's one of the biggest tips I give my students too, where let's say they're working on an assignment. Like I have a series where they work on sculpting human heads, and I never let them work on the same head for more than a day. I'm like, nope, just keep restarting. You will learn more by moving forward instead of overworking a mesh. And so like right now I want to redo this array mesh on this leg. I'll just remember that for next time. This is a-okay. I didn't have to use a tutorial to use this feature, so that's already a huge win in my book. We are going to cover this little naked knee though. Boop. And we're going to make these scales a little bigger. Because again, I really like the little head thing that I just added. So cute. I'm going to laugh if that isn't exactly what you meant, Taylor, but I really like it. Happy accident. And now I can kind of, I think I like it so much because it's getting back to a territory I'm more familiar with, which is working from like large shapes, medium to small. And this one is just a big shape, but lots of medium shapes all over it. So by having some intentionally like accent scales, I guess you could say, really helps the flow of the model in my eyes. Also makes that headpiece look so much more intentional and ornate, as opposed to just tacking on like a little crown. It really flows with the model now. There we go. So I'm kind of doing that same little shape there on that knee that I did on the head. Oh, the only thing I want to be careful about though is that I want to make sure maybe they're still looking a little like sharp. Though, if they look a little softer, I wouldn't mind that either because it looks nice with the wings. No, I'm gonna keep it sharp. So if you're working in ZBrush and you subdivide something and it smooths it all out, all you need to do is open the ZBrush brush and add some creases. So you bring up the ZBrush brush, hold spacebar over an edge. Be very careful you're not on a point or a polygon. It does matter. Hold spacebar. Click on crease, and in this case, I'll do edge loop complete. And it's mad because apparently it's not symmetrical, so we'll do mirror and weld. Oh, it doesn't like that. There we go. And I'm just throwing some creases on. So this is gonna maintain that sharp edge where I want it. So that way I can subdivide, get it smooth everywhere else, but we still have that nice crisp shape. Throw one down the middle. There we go. And there you are. Nice. I'm going to separate the actual belly from the scales so I can subdivide this. I don't know why those two little scales kept there. I'm going to subdivide this so I can start adding some of that soft belly texture. To do that, I'm going to come in with the clay brush. I'm going to be really careful because, as I mentioned earlier, you got to be really careful with high, small details like wrinkly baby. In theory, wrinkly baby sounds really cute, but when you sculpt it, it can start looking a little spooky, honestly. And then Taylor said, it's cool to see how one idea can spring another idea. Yeah, that was fantastic. That was really cool. Thank you. Ella says, also the crease button. Oh yes. Oh my God, the crease button. We're gonna talk about the crease button for a second. I even have it docked right here. I forgot. The crease button's really cool. Pretty much it will auto detect edges that are sharp and then crease them for you. If you ever find that your crease button isn't working the way you want it to, go to your subtool palette, geometry, crease, and then you can adjust your crease tolerance here. If you're ever not sure on exactly what a button in ZBrush is doing, all you have to do is hover over it and hold command. and it'll give you a little bit more information. So in this case, for example, the C tolerance button applies a tolerance in degrees when crease is pressed. So if I increase this to 130, now I know it means 130 degrees, and it will crease anything there and I think below is how it does it. So yeah. Even if you don't use ZBrush, now you know a little bit more. Oh my gosh, guys, it's actually looking really cute. I did it. Yay. I feel like one of the big turning points in this model was just adding this little smile. One of my favorite ways to add like a crease like this is to go in with damp sanded, make it a really deep cut, and then go over it with inflate. You get a real nice, soft. I don't know how to finish that thought. It looks soft. Kind of just trailed off. All right, adding a little more detail to the little snoot. Gonna put a little edge on it and then gently soften it. I just kind of like I like doing that because it defines my shapes better, and it's just another little ridge for paint to catch. Now that I've decided where this jawline is, I'm gonna add a little crease here, but I'm only gonna smooth on the underside, and that will also help give this face a little more definition. I call it like confident sculpting, like you don't want to mumble your shapes. Doing that same thing, I'm gonna detail or put a deeper crease into the mouth and then inflate over, and then going over with the clay brush to add a similar like soft belly texture, because that's gonna be continuous from the neck, the bottom of the neck down. It's just something really small. It's not even like super apparent, but I know it's there. All right, and I'm gonna mask right here. Oops. And then we're gonna soften that jaw connection, because I want it to be underneath, but I don't want it to be close to the corner of the mouth. That's weird. How cute is that? Oh my goodness, it's happening. And now I'm going to start pulling the leg shapes around to make sure they fit nicely with the body. And this is just a 3D printing thing. There's no reason to not have the feet touch the tail, because if not, I have to jam a little support in there, and no one wants to do that. So we're just gonna fix that. All right, I really like these little, I'm gonna call them baby curls, even though it's not what they ended up being. And I'm gonna add more down the spine here, because I really am just obsessed with that shape and the silhouette that it's giving. Amazing. I'm gonna delete this one right here, and then this is gonna be kind of like the marker of where the shoulder blade is at, and I can tuck the wings up to that scale. And it's really gonna just make everything look a little more cohesive. Yeah, how cute is this looking? Man, love this. Adding some more confident lines here. Again, paint catchers, I like to call them. But being gentle with them, because it's still like a cute baby looking model, and if I go too much on creasing little folds, it starts looking really scary. Looking pretty good. And then Ella says, dude, looks great, very magical. Taylor says, maybe with baby teeth. I was thinking that. I was thinking about putting a little tooth on the mouth. It's funny you mentioned that. I literally was just thinking that. But I don't think I'm going to because I really, the snoot is just so sensitive. But it's funny you thought about that. I was totally thinking the same thing. Great man, sink a leg. All right, I'm going to separate this mesh right here. Oh, that didn't do what I wanted it to. Mirror weld. Go to this one, mirror weld. There we go. I'm gonna divide this a bunch of times, and then we're gonna add like little beads. I don't know if they have like toenails like a elephant, but I'm just gonna throw some shapes in here. It's kind of on the underside, so I know this. Most people aren't even gonna see this on the sculpt unless they paint it. But I'm just gonna throw a little paw on there, pretty much, just to have something. There we go. Scoot the feet up, and pretty soon here we're gonna do the final posing because I don't want it to be perfectly symmetrical. Pretty much all we're gonna do is we're gonna like rotate the model to lean a slight, very slight C shape to either the left or the right. Oh my goodness, if you were just joining the stream, I highly encourage you to break from the live feed right now and like, I think it'll let you go back to like the beginning of the stream and just click through a little bit and just see the journey of what this model has come through, because it's come a long way. It's come from a sphere to this. I'm so glad I went with a ray mesh instead of using that default ZBrush sculpt brush, because that just was not working at all. I really thought it would too. I was like, that looks like the same shape with those scales. But I forget, like, it's the little shadows in between them that makes this work. Right now I'm kind of adjusting tiny details where I see scales clipping where I don't want them to clip. I'm so happy with this. I was so unsure. All right, we're gonna go ahead and finish the scales on the tail now. This one's a little tricky because I mentioned earlier, like the normals are going up one way and going down the other way. So we're gonna mess with it a little bit more to get one side looking as close as we want. And then I'm gonna mirror and weld. To prevent any artifacts, I'm gonna duplicate the mesh, and anywhere where artifacts are happening, I will delete them and replace them with the pieces from the duplicated mesh. If that didn't make any sense, it doesn't need to, because you're gonna see it happen in front of you. And if you have questions, always ask. Even if you're not like trying to learn ZBrush, I'm always happy to answer. Largely because I'm a bit of a talker. I just like talking about what I do. I think it's really cool. Ooh, that looks nice. I almost like that it runs up on one side and down on the other. It's just the way, it doesn't make any sense. I know that. It does look kind of cool though. I'm undecided on what I'm gonna actually decide on. All right, happy with the shape for right now. So we're gonna do one to mesh, which makes it a real mesh, not just an imaginary mesh. All right, oh, Meditating Monkey is here. Hello, welcome back. Hey, I just popping in for a sec. Saw you were live, figured I'd check out what you're working on. Yeah, I'm working on this magical little pangolin. Oh my goodness, I just referenced this to people earlier in the stream, but like feel free to like scroll back through the stream because oof, this thing has made changes. And then Ella said, can you give it some rounded claws? On the toes I can, but on the little front feeties, I'm not going to because they actually do just taper into one. You know what, I might add 3. Because if I do that, I can make them touch the back of the mesh and then no support's needed right there. All right, Monkey says, looks good. I'll check out the replay once I'm back online. Sounds good. Taylor says, with some modifications, the sculpt could be turned into a pair of wearable earrings. It really could. Can you imagine just like 2 little dudes? Like, so cute. And on a resin 3D printer, you could print it small enough and light enough to where that would be an option. I don't see that happening, like, actually, but how funny would it be if, like, this pangolin sculpt is, like, the reason why I start designing, like, earrings? Like, that'd be a very unexpected bridge. Really fun. Ah, it's so cute. I do know what I'm doing. Awesome. Okay. So I used to live stream a few years ago as well, and I'd have to schedule breaks because I would sculpt kind of like frantically. I say frantically, like I didn't feel frantic. I would just move too fast, and it actually would stress out my wrist. And I've noticed like now, like the way that I sculpt and talk, like I work a little bit slower, but I really just have such a good little time. And I don't overwork myself. It's really nice. Oh, right now I am creating a claw shape. All right, there we go. We got a little claw. And let's throw these on the underside, give some more. I bet you I'm gonna really like these. One, because y'all have had really good ideas so far. And two, this is actually very similar to what I ended up with because of Taylor's suggestion. It's just adding some very needed secondary shapes. Oh, you're cute. Okay, I need to Google this. I bet you they have little feeties, guys, and I need to figure out how many claws I have. Front claw count. Reddit just letting me know that they have a distinct footprint. Their front claw curves in as they walk, and these footprints are used to track populations of pangolins because they're so unique. Also, pangolins are notoriously shy. Cute. Oh, here we go. I found a really good reference. I'm going to put it on the screen right now. Here you go. So these are their little feeties. That is the technical term, is feeties. And this is what I'll be recreating. So how many are there here? It looks like there's 3, but it looks like there's a tiny one here and a tiny one here for a total of 5 potentially. I'm going to simplify that down to 3, but I'll make the center one a little bit larger. And I'm mostly doing that just for clarity of the, of the form. And I design all my models for 3D printing for tabletop minis. So he's only going to be like this big, literally. So I don't want to cram too many tiny things right there. Oh my God, guys, this is going to be my new favorite animal. This is not real. Wow, that is just absolutely wild looking. Very literal on the saying like a stranger than fiction kind of thing. There we go. 1, 2. It's getting a little wide. There we go. Throw that other little foot on there. Oh goodness. That is cute. Cute. I'm gonna rotate them forward a little bit and move them up and make them a tiny bit smaller, making sure they're gonna fit under that top scale. There we go. So my thought was I could actually have it touch all the way here, but I actually don't need that. It made sense in my head at first as far as like 3D printing goes, but that's really not needed. I'm going to duplicate this quickly by holding Command-Shift-D, D for duplicate. And I'm actually going to put these little toenails on the foot too. Mainly because I think it'd be cute if it was like holding its little tail with its feet. You know I'm starting to like a model and think it's cute when I preface everything with little. I'm like, its little toes on its little tail with its little feet. All right, here we go. And I am gonna put an extra toe on the feet. I did not check this one, but I'm assuming they do have toes on their feet. They're definitely not this long, but that's fine. Man, the Patreon supporter that requested this, Jason, I think is gonna lose their mind over this. Again, the request for this being, my D&D campaign has a group of magical girls. I'd like a creature that gave them their powers. Does this not look like a little Sailor Moon-esque familiar? And this is even the collage that they gave me to go with it. That's probably why I gave it a little crown, because I was thinking of the little jewels that they have. I was a little too young to really understand or get into Sailor Moon, but I vaguely remember it being on late at night and watching some of it, but much more so from like I'm 4 years old, pretty colors kind of thing, not like actually understanding any of it. Which is odd because I had like very strong formed opinions on like Blue's Clues and I had to be like 2 years old then. I don't know. You know what? This model has been such a treat, and I'm not even sure I would have been able to do what I did to this extent without you guys. So I'm going to finish the model on stream, and I'm going to create a Google Drive link for anybody that's watching to download this model for free. Even if you don't 3D print, save it. Maybe you'll meet someone that has a 3D printer or something, and who knows? But I just want to make sure I share this with y'all because look, this was like our halfway point. I needed some help. I needed some support, and now we're here, and I am just so happy with it. So yeah. Maybe that's something that I'll do more often for y'all too. Like I'll just have like an ongoing free download link for anyone who joins the streams because you guys do help me make it. Even if you're just lurking and hanging out, I look over, I see that little number, and it makes me feel good, you know? It's just nice to have y'all here. So yeah. I think it's because like when I'm watching myself sculpt, it's so technical in my head and what I'm thinking of. But I know when I imagine your guys' thoughts when you look at this, they're always kinder, you know? I don't even think I'm that self-critical anymore, but I still think of the average stranger as thinking nicer things. So it's nice to be able to leverage that. And as a little thank you, I'm going to start sharing those files with y'all too. That's also a really good way too. If you are thinking about joining my Patreon and getting access to these 800 models, if you're supporting the stream, even though it's not a like monetary donation, I think you still deserve a little something, a little thank you. So that could be a real nice intro too. Oh, speaking of, at the very least, I really implore you guys to subscribe so you can get notifications on my next stream. It is Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. EST time. And then also my Patreon, which is, you can join it for free. That we get like access to posts and votes and that kind of good stuff. Usually I plug that a lot sooner because like this is my full-time job, but I was just vibing with you guys. I kind of forgot to mention the business part. Taylor says, oh, if it's Sailor Moon-esque, maybe the baby needs to be holding a magical gem or a pacifier or both. If I were to put a gem in the little hands, I could put them a little closer together and I could put the gem closer to under its chin and it would also make it even easier to 3D print. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to keep that in mind when I move with the pose. But we'll kind of see where the pose goes. And if it obviously needs a little something, I think a gem right here would be amazing. And then I keep forgetting, here is that Patreon link. That is me. I think we're doing pretty darn good though. Also, it has been 2.5 hours and I have not stood up or got water. So I'm gonna take a little break. I'll be back in about 5 minutes probably. Just thank you guys so much. This has been a really good time. So I'm gonna get some water, stretch, that kind of stuff. If you've been sitting here listening to me the whole time, I encourage you to do the same. Anyway, I'll see you guys really soon, okay? All right, we are back. I went ahead and pinned my Patreon at the top, and I'm now posting the STL files where I'll be sharing the magical pangolin. Here we go. It's kind of a new thing that I'm trying out. It's not like a Google Drive link that I'm like, oh, like it's not a free model, but if you join the stream, I think it'd be nice if you guys could have this model for free. It is a 3D printable model. If you have a 3D printer, this will be ready to go. For FDM, it'll be a little trickier to scale it up, but it's definitely very resin friendly. The files are not in there yet because I'm actually making it right now, but it'll probably be done in the next 20 minutes or so. So I want to share the Google Drive link now, just in case you're tuning into the stream, but you might not be here when it's finished. You can bookmark that and then download it a little bit later. Yeah, so let's get this wrapped up, shall we? Right now we're adding a little pose to it, and then we're going to... What else do I do? We post-process, that's right. Scooting my desk, there we go. All right. It's been a few hours. It's almost time to de-tube my hair. It's a very complicated process. All right, let's get this rolling. I got my references back up, and we're rolling. Well, I can clear the dire pangolin now. I don't really need him there for moral support anymore because this guy is done. So right now I'm gonna keep an eye on my total points. I'm at 1.7 million, which is pretty high. And I do want to go in and give this a little pose in Transpose Master. And it doesn't like having tons of points. As long as you have a low subdivision layer, that's fine. But I do not have that for these because I have hundreds of scales covering this little dude. Speaking of, we're going to throw him up here. That way for when people are kind of joining the stream and tuning in, they actually can see what I'm doing. Because I have a bad habit of working like really zoomed in. So you can't always see what's going on. Right now I'm going to clean up the tail because as you can see right here, we have a lot of clipping of these scales. I'm going to see what Mirror and Weld does if I like it. It's not terrible. See, these are the artifacts I was kind of talking about earlier. Let's see if I can clean this up. And this happens because I had a mesh overlapping from both directions, so when it mirror and welds, it just creates this little artifact in between. Conveniently, there are also poly groups, so I can kind of just go through there and delete them. There we are. There's a similar seam on the other side, but since that's the middle of the tail, I kind of like how it looks right there, so I'm going to leave it. But I didn't like it on the back side. Looking pretty good. Excellent. Now I'm going to do a couple more fine tweaks using Move Topological. And then now I'm going to turn off symmetry and move. I was going to move these back and forth, but I didn't realize it had welded into a single piece. In that case, I'm going to smooth the center line so that it doesn't look so harsh. There we go. Well, that cleaned up pretty nice, didn't it? Very nice. Here's some of that clipping that I can fix with Move Topological. A trick that I like to use with the Move brush is holding down Alt. So pretty much it will pull the brush away instead of the typical way. Let me just show it to you. So usually when I use the Move brush, I can click and drag, right? Well, if I hold down Option, which is Alt on Windows, it will pull towards the camera. I almost use this inverted version of Move even more than just normal Move. I've always joked before that I could probably sculpt an entire model with just the Move brush. But I don't want to melt my brain, so I'm not gonna do that. Some stream viewers before had mentioned like, oh, that might be like a fun challenge for you to do. And I'm like, oh, I'm not that kind of creator. I think challenges are fun and stuff, but I like to challenge myself to like make 2 extra models in a week, not torture myself to use a single tool to make a whole model. that being said, I do like watching other creators do it. Like one of my favorite creators to watch is Jazza. He's a lot of fun. He's always doing crazy stuff. That guy also has such good energy too. He's just fun to watch. All right. Going through Move Topological again, just kind of pull these scales around and make them look a little more scattered, a little nicer, give some breathing room. There we are. I like it. I'm just a cutie, man. All right, I'm going to drop a hard save, and then I am going to try to put this in Transpose Master with over 2 million points because I don't learn. Jokes. I think my computer can handle it, and I'm really not doing that large manipulations right now, so it should be fine. Okay, ZBrush, do not have a fit. You're fine. Going down to Z plugin, Transpose Master, T-Pose Mesh. You click the top left button, and then when you're done, you click the top right button. All right, so this is gonna be a pretty simple pose. I already did a lot of the posing when I actually sculpted it, which was very unusual. I usually sculpt in like a very stiff T or A frame and then go from there. But I was having some crisis confidence. So we did all kinds of different steps in this one to keep things fresh and keep my brain from getting locked up. Which is actually nice though, because now I don't really have a whole lot of work to do here. I like to turn perspective off. That means there's no camera skew. So when perspective is on, you can kind of see, if you look at the middle of the model right now, when I turn perspective on, you'll see that it kind of bulges towards you almost. I don't want that when I'm posing. I want it to be as flat as possible. No skew. I'm gonna go ahead and hide the wings, and I do that by holding Command Shift and clicking on it twice. I gotta be really careful with doing small deformations here because I have these scales and they're supposed to be a hard surface, so they shouldn't come out all squishy and wonky. We're gonna do a little head turn and a little head tilt. Everybody likes a little head tilt. And now I'm gonna start finding what I consider to be the alpha shot. So it's a 3D model, so I will be checking all sides to make sure it looks good, right? However, when I render these, and by I mean my husband, thank you husband, I wanna make sure there is an angle that sells the model best. And that's gonna be this one. So you'll see I went to the 3D gizmo with W and then turned the whole model. And this is gonna be the angle that I'm primarily working from. All right, so we have that angle going. And now I'm actually also gonna be thinking about 3D printing ease here. Something that would be nice is I like to prevent little gaps like this because if there's no support on the head, it won't print. But putting a little support there and trying to clip it off is a huge pain. So I like to scoot things to touch. Oh, Miguel is here. Hello. MZ4250 is Miguel. He's fabulous. He says, oh wow, is this in 3D? Whoa. He's being facetious because he knows it's in 3D because he's probably one of the most prolific 3D modelers out there. He's fantastic. And all of his stuff is free, so treat yourself. Go get a Google and you can get some cool stuff. And he said, just kidding, of course it's not. You're being silly. Miguel's a very good friend of mine. He's just fantastic. You know, Miguel, I do lurk on your streams, and the only reason why I don't comment is because I don't want to make a Twitch account, or no, better said, I did make a Twitch account, but I immediately forgot my password, and I just have not reset it. So I just hang out on your streams, but I don't have the ability to comment because I don't log in. I need to do that because I appreciate you coming in and commenting on mine. I gotta repay the favor. All right, so we got one arm a little bit up, being cute. And now let's bring that other arm down. So there's no stiffness. Oh my goodness, Miguel, I was having a crisis with this model. It was so tricky and pangolins are weird looking. And I tried to make one like whimsical and Sailor Moon-esque. If you click earlier through the stream, it's like a jump scare. It was rough, but everyone was real sweet to me. Ella says, Twitch password recovery is legit a huge pain. Right? Oh my god, you think I like lost my banking information? Like, just let me log in. Miguel says, oh man, glad you didn't come by when it just streams making fun of you. Is that how you make all your money? That's like the big money maker. So it's kind of fun for y'all. So Natalie and Miguel are both here. They're both good friends of mine. All three of us get along real well. Or not. Miguel's just a menace. He's just mad because I'm not going to his Halloween party. I need to. I do want to. I just... I don't want to drive 7 hours out. And next year, when, you know, we have like a coffee table and stuff, I'll be more excited to do trips. I do have a coffee table. It's just a moving box. It's like those yellow and black crates. We've still been using that. It works. It works just fine. It's just not very cute. And we have nice furniture in other places. We bought our very first dresser and dining table this year, so that was really exciting and expensive. So I'm like, okay, we bought 2 things. We're going to take a little break, and then we'll buy more furniture later. My husband's actually really not just crafty, but like he's a woodworker. So he built our entertainment center. It looks fantastic. If you couldn't tell, I love my husband very much. He's good at everything. And Miguel says, "Ah, it's so cute though." It's cute now, Lord. It went through some stages. And then Miguel says, just take your helicopter, duh. I know, right? This probably goes without saying, but I do not have a helicopter. And I wouldn't even want a helicopter. My goodness, that's up there with things that just, no thanks. I think that's an actual rational fear, to be afraid of helicopters. I'm also super afraid of escalators and elevators. Not in that order. It'd be elevators, then escalators. Like, I'll use them, but like they do make me like sweat. Which I always think is extra funny because it's like I'm a mechanical engineer. Like I know exactly how they work. They just freak me out. Oh, this is looking so cute. And like a little wrinkly and a little cursed in like the best way. I think the tail is a little too thick, or maybe just not looking flat enough. So I'll go in with a pinch brush and kind of gently manipulate that. That might have been a little too much. So when I'm at the end of a model, you'll see me lean back a lot. I could just zoom out. It's like muscle memory. I'll lean back because I'm checking the silhouette. Just making sure things are reading clearly, all that good stuff. I could pull it farther away from its foot, and that might give it a better silhouette here. I kind of like it tucked up. I'm gonna rotate the entire model now, kind of more on its back. See how that looks. Ooh, his little chin is kind of ugly and wrinkly, so we're gonna bring him back down. There we are. I'm gonna pay special attention to make sure this nice like C curve continues all the way through because it's just nice to look at. Miguel said, well, I just came by to say hello. Good luck with your stream. Time to post my work today. See ya. Have fun. Thanks for stopping by. Taylor says, for extra shaping, the very tip of the tail could curve down a little. Like... Are you thinking kind of like this? It needs something like that. It needs some little adjustment. I might even just turn it up more, which I know is kind of the opposite of what you said. But it does need a little more extreme curve on it. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm also going to move this leg down. See how that looks. Nah, I like it better up. I'm gonna tighten that little foot in, and then make sure it's touching his tail too. Lots of touching. I'm gonna make sure the knee is touching this little elbow, which is touching the tail. It's just gonna make this so much easier to print and deal with. Printing has come a long way. It's really not that hard to get your stuff printed. But it does help when you do all these little things tightening up a model, I will say. Especially when it's nothing that's like fundamental to the silhouette of the model. Like there's no reason not to. Then I always like to take the extra time to make sure I'm making it as easy as possible. All right, let's give a little slope on these wings. So I'm gonna go to the center, and then there we go. Just a nice little tilt. Look how nice that is. Such a small adjustment that adds a lot of personality. And then tucking them behind those big accent scales that I added thanks to inspiration from Taylor. There we go. Heck yeah, that's looking pretty good. There we are. This is looking pretty cute, y'all. And then Ella said you could also adjust the wings a little bit to get extra movement. Oh, that's so funny. Like I happened to do that. Like I know when you said that, we were thinking the same thing. Same brain. Ella says, love it. Yep, me too. I can't decide if I'm gonna call you Ella or Natalie here. If you have a preference, let me know. I think I'm just gonna alternate confusingly. Well, I was thinking about toying with the idea of it holding a gem or something. I don't think I'm going to because I actually really like the little face. Like, the little touch is really precious. So I think I'm going to keep it just like this. Oh, I think the requester is going to be so happy with this. And that makes me happy. Lovely. I'm going to scoot this leg up a little bit. Because right now the foot's intersecting the tail a little too much. So all we need to do is just scoot that back and rotate. Just a little bit, because I do like that the toenails are touching. There we are. Very nice. Do not freeze, ZBrush. You're being so good. Good, ZBrush. All right, there we are. Cutie patootie. All right, we're gonna T-pose sub T, which is gonna put all these adjustments that I've done to each subtool back on the main thing. Oh, do not say mismatch. That is my least favorite thing that you say, ZBrush. All right, so, okay, it was only the tail. This happened my last stream too. It's so funny, hasn't happened to me in so long. It just means that there was a point on here that did not correspond on the adjusted mesh. So when it went to put all these changes back on, something didn't exist. So it just aborts the whole process, which drives me crazy. I'm like, can you just delete the one vertex that didn't line up? No, it just doesn't do it. Doesn't matter. Of all things for it to do it too, the tail is like the easiest one. All I do is go here and just doot, fix. I mean, backbreaking, guys. I shouldn't be too cheeky about it because that could have sucked, but it didn't, so we're fine. All right, moving it over to make sure it doesn't clip with the feet too much. Something else I could do, because there's no subdivision levels, is I could just literally import the tail back. So you know what? We're gonna do that. Because why redo the work I just did? I can hide this tail, go to append from a different subtool, bam, tail's back. That only works because I didn't have multiple subdivision levels, so I'm not worried about like losing any detail or anything. So, dude, we're back. Exactly as I had it. So right now I'm taking some extra care to make sure these scales line up in between different subtools and body parts. I really just have to worry about the tail to the body, and I think it's the neck and the head. And the rest of it, I pretty much, it took care of itself. Yeah, like right here, like that doesn't look great. So I'll just lift up these scales right here so they're not clipping. It's not even the end of the world. It's little details that I will notice when I paint my models, and it's nice to clean them up. There we are, looking pretty lovely. Pretty cute, y'all. Man, even the other side looks really good. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want this to be the alpha or this one. This is even a little bit cuter, isn't it? Yeah, so if I add that little tail curve to accentuate the other angle better, it doesn't really change this one much, and it makes this one even cuter. So we're gonna do that. This is one of those models that just kind of looks good from a lot of angles. Very nice. All right, we're gonna move on to post-processing, and I'll be uploading those files into the Google Drive link that I put into the chat, so you can download this model for free. So right now I'm going through any subtools I don't need, like that scale base and the dire pangolin. Obviously don't need that reference at all. And the rest of this kind of gets merged together and remeshed. Taylor says, I love the curvature you added to the tail. Oh good, because you mentioned that as a tip earlier, and I wanted to incorporate it. I didn't know what angle I wanted it to, so very good. I'm happy with it too. Yeah, that little curve right here. Isn't that cute? Ah, man, I love this model. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start from these top subtools here and merge them down. Every now and then I'm gonna go to check mesh, and that will tell me if I have any goofiness going on. If you wanna know the nitty gritty and you really are curious what I mean by goofiness, I can elaborate, but all you need to know is that we don't want goofiness going on. So I'm merging pieces that are close to each other. And the reason why I don't merge just everything all at once is because it makes it harder to troubleshoot when things do go wrong. I find it easier to do them in sections. Technically, it's faster to do them all at once, but I found that it usually hurts me more than it helps me. So right now I'm softening up that crease on the under eye because I don't need that. And you can do this with a clay brush, or you can use Trim Dynamic with Alt held down. That works quite well. There we go, a little bit of softness there. I'm also gonna see if I can get crease to do its job. Come on, crease. Wow, crease stuff that I didn't expect it to. There we go. I just need to lower the tolerance a little bit. So now when I subdivide, it smooths out a little bit. I don't know if I really even need to do that because I'm just gonna decimate it. So we're actually not gonna do that. All right, now that I have this mesh, right now I can go through with auto groups and I can select individual pieces. When you 3D print, you don't want that for a few reasons. FDM slicers get really confused and they'll just print those intersections as solid usually. Resin's already solid, so it's not a huge deal, but you might get artifacts, you might get holes, and you don't want pockets of resin. So it's best just to make it watertight. So you merge your pieces down, you make sure there's no funny business, and then you bring your 3D gizmo and go to remesh by union. So any mesh that's overlapping inside the other one will now be meshed into solidness. Taylor says, this is more about the painting process, but I can imagine some of the scales being golden. Ooh, yeah, same. Oh my goodness. Especially like some of these accent, pieces like around this crown. All right. That's looking pretty darn good. And then this is a smaller detail, but essentially it's bad practice to export models that are like hundreds of thousands of points. Like 166 isn't bad, but that's just the head. We really don't need all that information. So if you look at this mesh, you'll see all these little like squares and stuff. We don't need this many little polygons to give the information that's here in this mesh. It really could be a lot less. So what you do is you decimate it. What that's gonna do is it's going to reduce the poly count. So we're at 166. I bet you we can cut that all the way down to 75,000. And it'll probably still look really good. So this is the before, this is the after. You're like, what am I looking at? I'll show you. Here's the before, it's a lot more dense. Here's the after. All broken out, looks really good. I'm gonna come all the way down to 35, see how that looks? Looking good. All right, now for the rest of this, I'm a little less picky because it's away from the face details, and this model was largely modeled, not sculpted. So I'm actually not too worried about funniness going on. So I'm gonna merge everything that's left. If Natalie's still here, I know she's laughing because I'm just tempting the ZBrush gods, but I'm feeling confident. I'm gonna remesh this by union, and it's gonna work. Auto groups. Haha. It worked. It worked beautifully. Very nice. All right, we're at way more points than we need. I'm gonna cut this all the way down to 150,000. See how that looks? Natalie says, I do be here. Then I was definitely tempting ZBrush gods there for a second. But it went fine. Whoop. All right, we're gonna bring this down to 75,000 points. These files will be in that Google Drive folder very soon. Now I'm going to attach the head, closing any holes, and then remeshing by groups. Looks good. No funny business, no errors. I like it. And now let's see how low we can. 100,000 points is already pretty low, and I actually don't mind how rough and pixelated this looks because I want that hard surface edge. Gonna bring it down to 100,000 points, and that's actually really low compared to my normal models. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's low enough. My last step is I copy this subtool and I bring it into a pre-made ZPR called End. And this is how I make sure it's within tabletop scale. So with a model like this, I mean, it's pretty open to interpretation because it's a magical pangolin, but like something like that looks like an appropriate size. Bam. I love this because like it's floating and it's just magical, and I just love it. I love it so much. Amazing. I go to Tool, Export. I always label it A. I don't do simple bases anymore because I don't think anybody uses them, but if anyone starts complaining, I will do it again. And I'm gonna put a cloud base, of course, for this one. I have quite a few pre-made bases I've made over the years. Obviously, I just make them as I need them. I fit on there pretty nicely. I'll look from the top to make sure things are looking good. Yep, he fits on there really nice. How stinking cute is this? I'm gonna go ahead and delete this farmer Gonna merge these down. And this is where I make my glamour shots. Natalie's crying. Stop, it's so cute. I know, isn't it? Gosh. Natalie says, I can't see because your face is covering, but I always make a copy of my tool before I do this for safety. I just rely on quick saves and I call it good. But yes, that is very reasonable to save that. Oh, guys, it came out so good. Thank you for your moral support. I don't usually need it. I'm definitely not like I'm humble, but I'm usually fine. Like I got it. I can do it. I was not sure with this model. So I really, really appreciate it. I knew I was gonna get the model done at some point. I just didn't think it was gonna be on stream because I was like, I did the head 3 or 4 times and y'all, it was not coming out. All right. Jason's gonna lose his mind. So excited. Magical Pangolin. No base. We're gonna stick on this decorative base. And these files are going straight into that Google Drive. I don't know if I can pin multiple messages, but I'm gonna pin it. So YouTube does this dumb thing now where it doesn't do live replay. So if you're watching this in the future and you didn't watch it live and you're like, hey, I want those free downloadable links. Sorry, that's unfortunately not an option because that's just the way YouTube does it. You'll have to just go to my actual Patreon. And then it won't be free, but $5 gets you this model plus 800 others. So it's a pretty good deal still. All right. Fantastic. I'm going to show you guys. Bam. I have uploaded these files right now. So let me go ahead and share this. Free STL download. Bam. It came out as 2 separate messages. Sweet. I don't need to replace the pin message. I just leave that at the bottom there. When I leave the stream, I'll have it going for at least 5 minutes, so this will be up so you guys can grab it before I actually close the stream all the way. But yeah, there's 2 files in here right now. If you save this Google Drive link and come back in probably a couple days, there will also be a pre-supported version for resin. I pre-support all of my files and test print them for Patreon. And yeah, I think that's where the plug comes in. This is my full-time job. If y'all want to support the stream or make your own request, 'cause this is a request, I highly recommend looking at my Patreon. And then even if you don't want, you're like, holidays are coming up, I'm not spending money, I still would really love you checked out my Patreon because there's a free option. You can just join for free and vote for stuff. So that's why I did this model today instead of a different one, because it's the one that was picked. Oh man, this came out really cute. All right, so this is how I do my little glamour shots. Essentially, I stamp up my canvas with Shift S. And I like to have one that's really close up, and I just do a couple others. There we are. Do a little screenshot. Bam. We're in business. I don't need all these Pangolin references on my desktop anymore, though they were very helpful. And then I'm gonna edit this. I like to just throw a little filter on it. I usually just go to auto levels. This is on a Mac, and boost up the sharpness. I find that does really good. That's good enough. Well, bam. Well, that wraps up the stream. If you guys have any questions, now's the time. If you're lurking and have a 3D printer, anyone with one, make sure you download those files. They're free for now. They won't be in about 5 minutes. But I really just had such a good time with you guys, and I really appreciate it. If you want to make requests of your own or just support me in the stream, go to Patreon. I'm toying with the idea of doing a co-file later on. Oh my goodness, is there 2 tails in this? There are. That other tail merged. Oh my goodness, I have to redo that file. Well, I'm here for a little bit longer because that other hidden tool merged. Boo! That's not a huge deal. If you want the two-tail version, it's in the Google Drive folder, but I'm going to remesh this really quick. I was going to say, I'm like, what is this other thing? See, boom. That snuck in there. All I have to do is delete it. Boop, delete. I mean, this is back-breaking work, y'all. There we go. It's going to be re-uploaded in like 2 minutes. But technically, there is an elusive two-tail version available right now that will never be available again. That's one thing I think it's funny, like, if things are hidden in ZBrush, it's so, like, annoyed about it, and it never wants to, like, interact with them, and it puts these error messages up. But if you merge all, oh yeah, it includes it. It's happy. And I'm like, you're right. I technically said merge all. Eye roll. Not a big deal. There we go. And fix, close, remesh by union. You know, I was thinking that there was a little area I wanted to clean up right here anyway when I was rotating. Bam. I kind of make it a rule that if there's ever a mistake and I have to redo something I did, I might as well redo it just a little bit better, you know? Bam. Sweet, looking good. Take two. I'm so glad I noticed that. Oh my goodness. Wouldn't have been the end of the world. It's just kind of like a weird defect to have. And it's so like snuck in there too. There we go. Just like before. Actually, I already have my base picked out too. And this gives you guys a little bit more time to download that model for free, so win-win. All right, let's make sure this is nice and centered. Looking good. And I like to squish it down a bit as well. There we go. Makes it more stable. I would have been so sad if I didn't notice that before, because I wouldn't have had the ZPR available to remove this other like alien tail. There we go. Sweet, no mesh errors, looking clean. All right, Magical Pangolin, take two. All right, y'all. I'm uploading the new and correct version. And there you go. So as a 225, there are now single-tailed, not goofy versions available. Been so funny if I did the same mistake. I'm glad I didn't. Okay. Well, that was a little bit of a journey, wasn't it? All the way through, that model had new challenges for me. I'm glad you guys were able to see it, and hopefully you guys learned something, and if you're watching this in the future, still a big warm welcome and hello. I'm glad that you kind of got to see my art and see the process. How awesome is that? That was a tricky bugger. Did not want to be that cute. I'm gonna redo the screenshot too. There we go. Sweet, looking good. Awesome, well I get to tell Jason now that his model is done. This will release in like the next week or so. I have a live request board that's updated as well. Bless me. All right, that's a wrap. Model is done. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Subscribe, become a free member on Patreon so we can keep hanging out, because you guys were super helpful and I really appreciate it. Lurkers and commenters alike, you're super appreciated. I think that is everything. I will be posting more on YouTube. That's why I harp on y'all to subscribe. One, because you'll get notified, but mostly because I do polls on like what I'm gonna sculpt, and it's nice to have you guys pick for me, because sometimes if I picked this model today, I would have been like, wow, this was a bad pick, this was tricky. But since you guys voted for it, it feels a little bit better. I knew it was wanted, so yeah. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Taylor, for directly helping making this a thing. And I'll leave this up for about 5 more minutes to go grab these free files to download. If you're watching in the future, you can get them on Patreon. All right, you guys take care. Bye-bye.